Is now a good time to tell you I've never read a comic book?
Ahoy, hoy, residents. Welcome to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and next to me, well, across from me, is the doctor himself.
Hello.
Oh, each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners just like you. Well, this week we are joined by the very special guest. You may know him from his 100 podcasts he hosts, produces, or laughs loudly in the background of. He is also a funny comedian, writer, filmmaker, and actor, Mr. Kyle Clark.
Hello, producer. Hello, doctor.
Hello. How nice to be referred to as a funny comedian.
Yeah. Oh. I mean, for the first time in my life, I was like, ooh, funny comedian. Without those quotation marks they usually do.
Well, I was thinking about all the other words that I could use about you, and I was like, oh, let's just go with funny for this time.
Loud, hostile, tired.
Loud's in here, don't worry.
All right, so I understand the doctor's cape, but why yours?
Well, you know, I mean, it's something that's got to cover my erection.
All right.
The cape?
I didn't realize that you were wearing it.
Why is your erection backwards?
Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to.
Like, instead of a cape at that point, it is whatever you call that thing that you wear when you're getting a haircut.
Well, it's better than
Like
calling
a
it
hair
a tail.
apron.
I call that a front cape.
Front cape. There we go. I mean, because in your case, you are dressed as some sort of mythical creature who has some sort of super understanding of the DC universe.
Yeah.
I assume, having for sure listened to this podcast. Whereas you are just in, I'm going to call it a Shins t-shirt so you can be mad about it the rest of the time because it's not what you're wearing.
I'm mad because I would wear a Shins t-shirt. No, I'm upset I don't have one. This whole thing is ruined now.
Do you know what's funny is if you don't listen to this podcast, the questions you sent when we were doing our Christmas marathon were like as if you listened.
Yeah.
It's true.
I've been faking podcasts for a long time,
That's amazing.
Doctor.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
that's
You'll be. We still have not had a guest on this podcast that's actually listened to it, so it's fine.
If it makes you feel better.
Beforehand, some of them listen to their episodes when they're done.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, maybe.
And then abandon shit.
See, I would say it's only been in the last maybe year or so. And it's only that after I've figured out that people I know listen to our podcast that they've come on and like been more aware than I thought.
It's weird when they know things about your life.
Joe K recently texted me something and I didn't remember telling him it, and then I realized he had heard me say it on the podcast. I was like, oh shit, he's listening to the show.
I like that last week Joe K was just in my life because he was in every podcast that I listened to.
He sure was. That was not
real weird.
planned.
No.
We had to reschedule somebody else's podcast and Joe K was available. Joe K is on my very short list of people I know won't fuck up a show at the last minute, which is a very good and specific skill set to have.
That is. I wish we had one of those.
Oh, you'll find it. Don't worry. You'll find 2 or 3 people that you think are pretty funny and are pretty available, and you'll turn them into a regular part of your show.
We need to do that.
We definitely need to do that.
It's a real shame that you don't have Joe K or Rivers Langley available to you.
Fuck, right?
Julie Prescott and Becky Joyner are harder to get a hold of.
I think we need to put this podcast on the road.
Come to LA, boys. They're thirsty for podcasts.
Yeah. You know what they need?
Everybody's always saying, God, if there's one thing we need more than more comedians, it's more goddamn podcasts.
Oh my God, imagine if you could have podcasts from comedians.
Oh, man. What if they were talking about other comedians?
Oh my God, and to them?
Oh, man. About like the minutia of doing comedy?
Yeah, and just riffing.
Oh, man.
Really.
But at least what if we also had like funny takes on like Marvel movies coming out?
Ooh, I'm invested.
I wish some guy who has a screenwriting degree would tell me what he would have done.
That's a ridiculous concept. So let's talk about DC.
Yeah, all right, here, guys. Let me tell you all about my Doom Patrol pitch.
Oh, fuck. We'll get to that.
I'm a man who has no interest in making a Marvel movie, but my 2 sellout movies, because I just want to make movies where people sit around and talk and get stabbed to death. There's the only 2 things that we should film. I guess do drugs is like a third thing.
Right.
But beyond that, my 2 sellout movie things I would give that up for: Cowboy Bebop and Doom Patrol. Because sometimes when I
put your hands together,
yeah, when I sit in traffic, sometimes I go, "This is how I do it." I'm like, "Oh, I've been on a podcast."
That's amazing. Normally, when we do this show, we start with like some like DC news, but we don't do that when we have
what's in the DC universe.
Well, we don't do it when we have like interesting like new people on the show because
we don't need to kill dead air at that point.
Because we don't have to film.
Normally
Richard.
it's you two just looking dead into each other's eyes, going, "I can't believe we're in this prison together forever."
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, like what did they say about the casting for Shazam?
For the fourth time.
Who is casting Shazam?
Oh my
Is
God.
Shia LaBeouf in it yet?
Oh my God.
Thank God, no.
He was in a DC movie, though.
And that's actually, in my opinion,
he
one of the
played
better
Chaz
ones.
in Constantine.
Yeah.
Did you see who is playing Shazam?
I have not.
Dude from Chuck?
Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I didn't know I could be less interested in this movie, but they found a way. Good. They were like, this movie sounds bad, but don't worry, we got another shitty guy.
Does Mark Strong win you back?
No.
Well, hey, DC execs, you've lost Kyle Clark and the entire This Is Rad audience.
Oh, that's not true. Most of them will still for sure go see it.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And then they'll let me know if I should go see it. That is a nice thing with having the audience I have, is if something turns out pretty good, they will tell me to give it a second shot.
Right.
That's good to know.
And there's a percentage of it, guys. I swear to God, I will give Thor Ragnarok a try.
Oh my God, please. And this is the DC podcast.
Oh, wait, and that comes from a man who we met through listening to my podcast. Way to just be the thing, Richard.
This is what I'm here for. I also love I love the time that you had to do a live podcast and create sketches, and you were like, we have to make jokes about our podcast. I know who I'll call Richard. He knows about our podcast more than us.
I have no sense of what I do. I need outsiders who tell me the stereotypes.
Well, how about for like the 3 listeners that we have that don't also listen to This Is Rad? Why don't you like tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, you're the doctor.
Well, I know, but while I'm filling out this paperwork and prepping the blood pressure cuff, why don't you?
Oh, so you're like a real doctor.
Oh yeah,
too.
I know nothing about comics.
Oh, see, I was under the impression that you were some sort of like comic wizard, like Dr. Fate, beloved DC Comics character from Justice League International.
No, I just wear this fun cape and I tell people that they need to lay off the salt.
God.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Right?
You're like the fun guy at the office where the office is where people come to not die.
Thank you.
If you were about to go into surgery and the last thing you see is your doctor is dressed like 70s Elvis, I think at that point you're like, well, I guess if I was going to believe in God, it'd be now and be like, hey, man, don't fuck me on this.
Let's roll
Can
those
I
dice.
swear?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
I forgot it's not my house.
No, don't worry.
But yeah, like why don't you tell us a little bit
sure.
about like how you got it? We know that you're super into comics.
Yeah.
Like what got you there? What started you off?
I have like a very like circuitous journey with comics. I mean, as a kid, I loved superhero stuff. Like X-Men was one of my favorite cartoons. Spider-Man, a lot of that stuff. And I tried reading a lot of comics. You know, there wasn't a lot of access to them, so it was you'd grab what you could get. Like I still have an issue of Generation X from like 1994 that was like the one comic I owned, and I didn't have a bag and board, but I had like a polyurethane thick bag that like a puzzle came in, and I threw the puzzle away and put it in that because I felt the compulsive urge to bag and board things from a young age.
Right.
I've been pretty
was
cool
inborn,
all
yeah.
along. Like. Some kids pretended to be astronauts. I pretended I was an obsessive compulsive 20-something comic fan.
Oh my God, guess what? Your dreams came true.
They did. And then when I was making the transfer from grade 8 to grade 9.
Yeah, we're in Canada.
Yeah. So I have to do
The numbers are the
legally,
same.
I have to change it.
Let's establish that. Yeah.
The numbers are the same, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
We just don't have
Bruce
middle school.
McCullough's song In Grade 8 is about 8th grade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, up here, grade 5 comes after 10, but
It's fine.
Jesus. I'm going to be honest. I didn't know if that's real or not. I've seen a lot of things in this town. That midnight sun's doing crazy things to my brain. Also, I haven't slept in days. And that was right around the time I had gotten, actually, I basically got into like punk rock and comics at the same time. Before that, it was, Robert Heinlein novels and new metal. So I was like, Daddy's got to upgrade some things.
so was there like a connection between the punk rock and the types of comics you were reading?
Eventually, not at first. At first, it was just like, periodically in my life, I will decide that a thing that I've admired from a distance, I need to just go whole hog into.
Right.
And comics was one of those things where I've always kind of liked this. It seems like maybe it'd be worth checking out. So I dived into that world, right around the same time, because I think it was because I was accepting that I was not cool.
Sure.
Like, I think up till that point, I thought of myself with my like shitty hair and being fat and being super sensitive and crying all the time as being sort of a roguish guy. And then like I'm like seeing punk rock going like, wait, you can be fat and ugly but still be kind of cool. Where do I sign up?
Oh yeah, I like NoFX too.
Yeah. See, but they were never mine.
No. Oh.
I saw them open
gotta
for
get-
Streetlight Manifesto. That was the wrong crowd for them.
I saw them in Rancid together, and Rancid
works a
blew
little
my
bit,
mind.
yeah.
It was when they did that split, and NoFX just. It's funny you say that just because I literally just put a bunch of NoFX on my phone the other day and was driving around because I'd say like once every 2 years I try to go maybe now I like NoFX,
No.
and I just like listen to them and envision Keith Carey finally being able to trust me. And I just go, it's still just not for me.
No.
But I think it's because the idea of like fun in punk rock was not the point. Like I'm a sad man. I've always been a sad boy, and so I want my sad music.
Yeah.
And so it was like, and that's why it quickly went from like punk rock to like me fudging all of indie rock into being punk rock. Where it's like, no, punk's my favorite genre. I sure love the Sonic Youth and the Pixies and the Eels.
They've got punk.
The Clash are also
tendencies.
good, I suppose.
Yeah.
Little aggressive. And then at that same time, once I was accepting, like, well, if I'm super uncool, like, and this is just how life's going to be, might as well just like go full force.
Yeah.
And dived into comics and started going to the comic shop. And I think it helped that Ultimate Spider-Man had just started.
Yeah.
I probably started reading that book within the first 5 or 6 issues. I think Power and Responsibility, the trade had just come out. And that was also right at the start of the trade boom.
Yeah.
And when those really became a thing you could get and that would come out consistently. Because you guys, like,
That's a good way to like dive in if you like haven't started.
it was
or
the
haven't been doing it the
perfect
whole
time. And also it was that same time period, like the X-Men movie came out in like 2000.
Yeah.
The first X-Men movie is the most excited I've been about anything ever in my entire life.
Wow.
Like I'm and this is weird because
I hope
like
this
a
plays
crossroads
during
on it.
the birth of a future child.
Sure. Oh yeah. No. I mean, eventually, a little. Oh, what was the name? A little June bug will be born, and
Still X-Men.
yeah.
Yep.
But it'll be close.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I've kind of fallen off, but we'll get to that in a minute because actually it applies to the show where I went from making mine Marvel to kind of being a DC guy.
There you go.
But that combination of those two things were big. And especially because the X-Men movie made it way easier to get nerdy stuff. It really jumped up a peg. And I got to go into that for a minute, even though it's a DC show. But like literally, I remember having dial-up internet, clogging up my parents' phone line for like 7 hours so I could download the Winamp QuickTime download
shit.
of a soundless version of the X-Men trailer so that I could in whatever like 280
Oh, Jesus.
so that I could move through it choppily so I could look at them like still images because it was the first
Right.
images.
Well, in
of
your
the
head, you're just
movie.
going.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I was humming it aloud while my family tolerated my madness. It's why I constantly thank them for everything.
No, of course.
And so kind of post that high of like that movie coming out, like really having that kind of like, oh, I think I just love comics.
Yeah.
And I started reading. I think I'd already been reading Toy Fair at that point because was an action figure collector. Again, this could never come out. And got into Wizard magazine too, so it kind of made for tastemakery kind of stuff.
Yep.
And from that started with that. Grant Morrison's new X-Men was right around that time too, which will come around to this.
Yeah.
And then actually, as that's going, the other thing that will come around on all of this is by that time I was a freshman in high school.
Right.
I'm sitting in Algebra 2. Where the kid sitting next to me is this kid Samson. Was a cool kid. He was a real goth kid
got a dope
in
name.
Jinko jeans, whose favorite band was Nine Inch Nails.
just don't cut his hair.
And we were sitting talking, and because he saw I was reading Different Seasons,
Right.
And he was a big Stephen King guy, and we both talked about how Apt Pupil's the best story ever, and the ending of that story is insane, and they really puss out in the movie version. And he was like, "You seem to be a guy who enjoys dark things. You like comics?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Check these out," and he gave me Filler Bunny, the Jan Vasquez thing, and I think Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, and I was like, this seems like some goth bullshit, no thank you. And he was like, well, try this goth bullshit, and he gave me the first volume of Preludes and Nocturnes from the Sandman.
Oh, there you
And that
go.
started a love affair that has never ended, which is me with DC Vertigo.
Yeah.
If I ever get to do an episode of my own podcast, which is a thing I'm thinking of doing at some point because we're running out of ideas.
And it completes the circle.
I'm
finally.
really excited for you guys to get to your 5-year point and go like, what the hell have I done?
I know. I'm just waiting for the episode title to be Kyle Clark.
That's why you got to go topics, man. But
That's true.
it would be Vertigo comic. But yeah, I realized I've just looked at it. This is weird because I'm like in the middle, so I've got to like pick. And I know you less well, so I feel compulsively to talk to you because you're also the namesake of the show. But my friend is over here, sad that I'm now talking to his friend after I just went on a road trip with another guy.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not
This
important.
has been me like friend cucking you over the course of a festival.
It's okay. I'm super into it. Yeah, just keep talking to somebody else.
I saw the
I'm
emails.
not important.
I saw the emails that Richard had sent you, which is like, I would really like you to come over to my house and talk to my friend while I watch.
Well, I put all those ads on Kijiji and no one responded. So.
Wanted comic book nerd to talk to my friend.
Weird.
Nah, this is a trap.
Weird podcuck.
We're starting the Podcuck network right now.
I needed a title for my network.
Oh, that's right. You're actually doing that.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, man.
Oh, $50 if you call it podcuck.
I'm
I'll
close.
match that $100.
Oh my God, that's more money than that podcast network will make.
Oh, man. But yeah, Vertigo and Sandman. Sandman changed the way I look at comics. All of a sudden it went from like cool action things like, oh, it can be like literary and it can be dark and it can be scary and it can be funny and it can have cool art that's not look at this ripped man talk to a different ripped man while a female supermodel walks by.
Yeah.
And now Sandman's coming back.
That feels
Which
like
is a
that
bad
feels
thing.
like a
Oh no.
it feels like a natural like bridge to the work of Grant Morrison, but was there like ever like a dip like back into more mainstream stuff? Or did you go?
Because those jumped and it what I later was able to put together is that I am just a disgusting fan of that British wave of 80s writers. Because what also happened at that same time was Peter Milligan and Mike Allred's Ecstatics, which is, again, probably in my top 3 favorite series of all time.
Really?
It's, let's take my favorite comic book artist and, like, one of my favorite writers and, like, put them on this meta book that's, like, hyper-violent and super self-aware and is deconstructing, like, the one superhero universe I do know a ton about.
Yeah.
And, like, I thought that was great. And then I got into Preacher and I got The Watchmen and was reading all these things, and really I watched Ultimate Spider-Man kind of drift away, and then I kind of started finding people like Adrian Tomei and all the stuff that Drawn and Quarterly does, and was like, holy shit, there's like Feelings comics. And I remember like David Latham's Stray Bullets was a big thing for me.
Stray Bullets is a huge
Oh my
one,
god, like that I never remember the issue number, but the one about the guy who's like having dinner with it's a married couple having dinner with another married couple, and it's the whole fantasy where like they're into this domestic dispute, and so the wife lives with him, and then his wife gets cancer, and then he and the friend's wife like have sex out of sadness, and it cuts to him at the table, and that's him figuring out how to fuck his friend's wife.
Yeah.
Like I was like, holy shit, this is maybe the best short story I've ever read.
Yeah, because that one totally reads like it's the storyboard of like the saddest Pixar short.
Last drawing of just him sitting back at the table with his mind blown is one of my favorite images in comics ever.
Yeah.
Like, and as it kind of went along, I would try more and more books that were kind of mainstreamy stuff, and some stuff would stick. Like I'd find some things. I liked Avengers Disassembled.
Yeah,
I was such a Marvel guy. Yeah. And that, I think, is what led me out of comics. Because then by the time I got to college, I was reading old Vertigo books. You know, by that point, I was finding The Invisibles, and I was finding, 100 Bullets, and I was finding Hellblazer at that point, and Hellboy, and a lot of those things. And Marvel was getting into doing just nonstop event books. And I hate event books. I just hate them. I hate them all. I wish they didn't exist. They're bad narrative.
It's funny that you say that, because I was like a follow-up question I was like formulating was, as you're, jumping around or picking things to read, was it event books that you were like, well, maybe this is like
they're a bullshit cash grab that are bad for the comic book industry. I hate
hot takes.
Oh.
Hot takes.
I mean, is it because like I want it to be a hot take, like everybody feels that way, but they keep doing them, which means fuckers are keep buying them.
I mean, I certainly don't like the frequency of them, but I'm a bit of a sucker for an event.
Oh man, they're bad.
I'm just like, all right, fine, dark multiverse. Hey, let's do it.
It's why, and we'll get to this because I saw this question come up on Twitter. My situation with Final Crisis. We'll get there.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where we go with that one.
So I finally came back to stuff in college, because when I got to college, all of a sudden, because part of the problem in high school was that I loved comics. I knew one other guy, and it wasn't even that goth guy from my high school, because he liked a lot of old stuff, and he was big on like Vertigo, but he was more like, hey man, I got Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and 9 Inch Nails. These 9 Inch Nails records aren't going to annoy my parents themselves. Like, and also I think I was getting into band stuff at that point, so I was getting a little bit, like, it was always like, up front was I'm this musician who likes music, because you know how girls love to be talked at about music.
Oh, yeah.
As much as they do with comics.
Well, yeah, I would argue that there are more girls who would like you to talk at them about comics than about Guided by Voices.
Why did I not know about those women? Oh, yeah, you know what? No, Guided by Voices, you're right.
Yeah, no, I picked them and not the Pixies. Because
okay.
like, no, I've had a nice conversation with a lady about that. No girl has ever been like, oh, man, I love that beer-drinking dad band. And when I got to college, I distinctly remember like a friend of mine and I driving in a car, and we drove past in Long Beach. There's like 2 really good comic book stores. We drove past one and I was like, oh, have you been in there yet? Like kind of a, you know, they've got some cool stuff. And there was like he's like, you into comics? I was like, yeah, you into comics? And he's like, yeah, okay. And we like both like looked out the window.
We say if we're into comics.
In case somebody's going. And like he and I got along real well because it was like we both revealed that we were real into Deadpool. And this is long before this chimichanga bullshit. This was the Gail Simone run from Deadpool into Agent X that is so good. And it's why I feel like it's a great example of why almost no one should be allowed to write Deadpool. Right. Because like Gail Simone is a world treasure at this point. Like, she's incredible. Her Birds of Prey book is so everything that woman touches is fucking glorious.
She's got a Plastic Man mini coming up.
Oh, it's gonna be so good. Yeah. And we'll note where she started, you know, and where she ended up because, you know, they let her do stuff. And so like I remember like that was a big bonding point. Was me and my friend both loved like Gail Simone's Deadpool run and stuff like that. And knowing guys in college who were into comics kind of got me back into it and kind of pulled me back. And that was right when like the early days of the cinematic universe stuff was coming, and that was exciting at the time. Yep. And then I remember my roommate for my last 2 years of college was super into heavy metal and horror movies and stuff like that. And literally we were introduced because our RA was like, hey, you should meet this other guy in the dorms. He also has a beard.
Your RA really like got to know you.
And what's fucked up is he was super right. Because like I walked past him and he's all like got his metal vest on. And I grew up in punk rock, and where I was at, punk and metal were not friends. Yeah. Like, because it was all these like wanky shred guys who were just like, I want to sound like Dream Theater because I'm a garbage person. Yeah. And like, fucking, then I meet him and I walk by and he's got all these things and I'm sort of like, whatever. And then I see he's got a Hank 3 patch. And I was like, hold the fuck on. You like Hank 3? And he's like, yeah. And we start talking and he's like, check out my room. And it's full of all these like metal posters and cool doodads and all this stuff, but right in the center of it is a Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds poster. Oh, and of all the things possible, I turn and go, you like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds? And you could tell that like we were going to be married from that point forward because like metal is his genre, but like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is his favorite band of all time. Yeah. And for me, like punk is my genre, but like, you know, Sonic Youth and the Pixies and all these things that don't fit into that category are the same thing. So we were both these weird conundrums. So I'll bring it. Watch this. I'm waiting. Started reading a lot of comics, and he started kind of getting into comics while we were living together. And then it was funny because after we stopped living together, he really jumped past me. Oh. But I have a real distinct memory where while we were living together was when we were really starting to get in. I was getting into the Invisibles. Right. And I remember showing it to him and him going, this is some hippy dippy, stupid, pretentious bullshit. And then cut to a year and a half later, he has beaten me to finishing the series and went to fucking Moorrrissoonn Con. Yeah. And this guy's now his favorite writer, and now I'm the asshole. Yeah. Like, and it was such a like funny thing to. He was like, "Hey, remember when I said that book looked dumb? It's maybe the best thing ever written." And I was like,
"He came around.
All right. I'm just glad you came around." Yeah. And then he was such a tastemaker for me because like I was a big horror fan, but he knew like a lot of like I never seen Reanimator until I lived with him. Right. I'm trying to think what some of like he was. You know, I didn't know who Gaspar Noé was before him. Like, he just really, like, he's the reason I've seen Solo. Like,
so he, like, really...
We would have Sunday nights, we would just watch, like, gnarly horror movies and eat pizza and have beards. And
didn't you just put him on the podcast recently?
Yeah, he's actually in one of the first couple episodes, and he just came back on. He was on our early metal episode, then he was just back on for Maiden. Mm-hmm. But he is, you know, a fucking font of comic book and all sorts of nerdy knowledge and stuff like that. And so it was real funny to just watch him go from like, I don't know about all this bullshit to him going like, man, I don't know what it is. Sometimes you black out and buy the Jodorowsky box set. Like, and I was like, well, I mean, I'm glad we're both into this place, but what a journey it was to get here.
Holy shit.
And it was during... Jump back. We're almost done here. I swear to God. There is sort of a thought process to this narrative. The only other guy before college that I had known was a guy named Brandon Flick. Shout out to Brandon Flick. I'm for sure you will listen to this. I love you. You're one of my favorite human beings on this earth. He just moved away from my town to go live with his wife's family, and I'm very sad. Brandon has incredible taste. He is the best nerd I've ever known. And
now he has to die.
When we became friends in high school, I'd known him in middle school, but then like he was literally the only other like super nerdy guy, active comic book reader in my high school.
Right.
He didn't have people he sat and hang with for lunch, so I bullied him into hanging with my scumbag friends. And so he became like the good guy in this terrible group. And I've always been like a good guy in a terrible group. Yeah. So we were like the two squares hanging with a bunch of like gnarly scumbags.
Right.
And literally so we could talk about comics.
That's awesome.
And we slowly would push some of our like I very distinctly remember leaving my copy of Exiles at my friend's house one day, and they all just got stoned and took turns reading it. They're like, it's like Quantum Leap with the X-Men. This is great. And like we'd try to sell them on books, but like what was nice is like Brandon is such a well-rounded guy with it, and he's harder core than me. I'm always like I love to dabble in everything, but like I make no bones that I am like the expert on anything.
Sure.
He knows my taste real well, and he likes a lot of that stuff. He likes a lot of everything, but he over the years will, if he sees something, because he's just so in it all the time, he'd throw shit at me. And he's also a big Grant Morrison fan, and as we'll get into, Grant Morrison's an acquired taste,
very much so.
And we found out when we asked people to send in questions.
And I made the mistake of one of the first comics we made Colin read. I gave him fucking Ultra comics.
Yeah, that's you're a bad friend.
Yeah, probably. I've been told that before.
But we're both big fans of it. It's funny. I feel like there is definitely like a 1-to-1 ratio of like how much I'm willing to have a conversation about comic books with someone and how much they like Grant Morrison, because it doesn't matter what else the rest they're into.
Yeah.
Because like Brandon likes a bunch of bullshit books I'd never read, but I also read a bunch of garbage shit he'd never read.
Sure. Yeah.
But like when you have that
common
base,
ground,
and I'll get to why that is, I think, in a minute here. But like Brandon also like is the guy who turned me on to like Neon Genesis Evangelion, and that fuck set for a year. He gave me the DVD set, and he knew what it would do to me.
Right.
And I was like, well, this fucking anime thing, like and because I'm so back and forth on anime, I think I'm probably more into it now than I've ever been.
Yeah.
But like I definitely. It feels exhausting at times.
Yeah, totally.
And I started watching it just out of I have borrowed this a year and a half ago. I can't return it and say I didn't watch 26 episodes of something. Like I can't say I didn't spend that 13 hours in that 365 days that just happened.
Right, yeah.
And so I started watching it, and then it broke my brain. As anybody who's watched it knows, I hit where that show starts to get weird and was like, oh, never mind. Now I have to get a nerve tattoo, which is my next tattoo I'm going to do. It's also the background on my phone because that, it's a beautiful thing. And, he has hit me to a ton of stuff, and he was a Morrison guy. And looking at my roommate and my friend Brandon, all these different people who dig it, and my own kind of thoughts on it over the last few years, because I again am kind of in a rut with comics.
Right.
But I picked up again recently. I got Drawn and Quarterly's 25th anniversary, and that's been really inspiring me. And I've been I actually found a copy of Read Yourself Raw, the Art Spiegelman's the sampler of the first three, because like indie comic stuff's a big thing. And I've been going back when I tour. I have a little tradition I do. I'm actually gonna have to cheat it on this one because I don't have time to get to a comic book store. I always look for like a record store, a used bookstore, and a comic book store in any town I tour in. And
we barely have one of those,
right?
We have all three of those.
You got a bookstore?
I have a record store.
The record store.
I also feel like I'm a real trash person because since Apple Music, it's a lot less. Who's buying vinyl on tour? Like, who wants to add that much extra weight? I'm not pressing my own records onto vinyl because I don't want to carry them.
No,
around.
I'm too afraid to put vinyl into a luggage container anyway. So.
But so I will buy a trade every kind of city I go to or every tour I do or something like that. And I started doing that with Doom Patrol because I hadn't read it and I really wanted to, because when I first learned what Doom Patrol was and that it's the book that X-Men stole everything from, because I through those essential books have read like every issue of X-Men from like 1978 to like 1990.
That's crazy.
Like that was a big thing for me in high school, was just perpetually tearing through. Like I love that run. And then it stops right at the point where it starts doing everything I hate about comics.
Sure.
And during that time, like I loved that concept, and then finding out that they had Stanley just like straight stole all of those ideas from another book, and then by that point I'd become a huge Arnold Drake fan because I love Dead Man. Dead Man is to me like one of the most clever superhero ideas ever,
an awesome character,
and it's. Even those early Dead Man books by 60s standards are actually fairly well written and really interesting ideas. And going and finding those vintage Doom Control things and a lot of the other stuff he was doing at that time, like it's interesting because I feel like there's so many luminaries in comics that get like showered with praise.
Yes.
And there are like other people who just get fully ignored who were geniuses.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy because like Bill Finger are finally being acknowledged.
Finally, yeah.
I always get a little hipstery because like I remember reading in like Wizard and Sinscape and shit when they were writing things about Bill Finger a decade ago. But I'm glad we finally got around to it because he fully deserves all the credit for that. Fuck Bob Kane.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then beyond that...
Blonde hair and a red suit. What kind of a fucking Batman was that, Bob?
I love that he would like try to draw a shitty Batman when he did things and he just like sucks at drawing the thing he didn't make.
Yeah.
Stan Lee was like, I just don't draw.
Yeah.
It makes it easier so people don't ask questions. Get back in the cage, Ditko. Have you guys read that Marvel unofficial book, which should be called How I Stopped Worrying and Fucked Everybody Over by Stan Lee?
Why everything's mine?
It's such a great book because you just hate him at the end. Yeah. You're like, sure, you're still a genius man, but also like, ugh, the blood on your hands.
That's
so much.
That's the running joke from We Hate Movies that I really love, where they do the Stan Lee impression that I can't do, but they just go, and then I took a shit on Jack Kirby's grave.
He did. He really did. Yeah. You also get a new appreciation for Jim Starlin, one of my favorite Batman writers, and I have a very offensive way to describe his writing in a few minutes. I'll just do it now. I like Jim Starlin. I mean, his work on Adam Warlock and when he's just taking acid and sitting at the Marvel office is amazing. When he goes to write Batman and becomes just like a weird guy who's like, you know what? I just wish that fucking Frank Miller was like more masculine and aggressive. Because when I read Death of the Family, all I ever think about is the fact that he writes dialogue like he's breaking a woman's jaw. Like it's so fucking aggressive and mean-spirited. And he's the guy who also has him fucking Talia in the desert and with a hairy chest. He's like, Batman's got to be awesome. Yeah. And by awesome, I mean Burt Reynolds.
Yeah,
Burt Reynolds is pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's the cannonball run of Batman.
like a Batman who drives past Sean Connery and calls him gay. Yeah. Like that's the Batman we really deserve, who would actually exist.
Oh, fuck, that's funny. That's going to color how I read so much of that.
Yeah. Don't worry about Xanadu.
And that's why... and I especially always find it an interesting juxtaposition because like so much of that Batman is happening right before Arkham Asylum comes out.
Yeah.
And I've had the good fortune. Here, I'll segue for you.
Oh my God.
Producer fuck.
Look at you.
I have not stopped talking on your podcast. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God. I was so surprised that was going to happen.
Oh,
I mean, you
I know who I am.
You don't regularly listen, but I'm just so happy that there's any kind of momentum, any kind of forward motion that I'm not like constantly stopping to say, hey
Doc, go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
baby girl, we'll get those Skype calls figured out. I've unintentionally started to join like 4 podcasts in the last month. What's one more?
Hell yeah!
But
this is the one you should have been doing the whole time anyway.
I don't know. That one about fitness seems more important.
Oh yeah.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Well,
I'm the only person who's not actively lifting while we're doing the podcast.
I literally don't know what that F word meant.
I like the fitness donut in my mouth.
Dad, you're so fun. Get out of here.
Oh, you kids. Okay, here's some snacks. Bye.
But I've gotten the good fortune to we'll segue into Grant Morrison at this point, if that's
who?
The producer. Well, they've got a background now. They're like, oh, I don't like this man. I've turned off the podcast. If they this way from now forward, they know they don't like me.
It's okay. They turned off the podcast episodes ago. So.
We're just screaming into a quarry at this point.
So when Grant Morrison took over New X-Men,
yeah.
I had no idea who he was. Yeah. He was just a bald guy who wasn't Brian Bendis.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was still very much team Mark Millar, team Brian Bendis,
yep.
all the guys who like make books that make me mad now.
Right.
And
so we won't touch on Bendis's Action Comics Superman.
No, we sure should. I actually... So, for those of you who don't know who the fuck I am, I used to be on the Nerdist podcast for 5 years. I was that annoying laugh in the back that used to bother you so much, according to Reddit. And I also was on occasionally.
You're Jonah Ray, right?
I mean, according to parts of the internet, yes. But as we would get to meet certain comic book people, and really a lot of those that was such a cool experience because I'm not a super con guy, mostly because I think lines are bullshit.
Sure.
But I've had the privilege and opportunity to meet a lot of my heroes. Like I got to meet like Mike Mignola and make small talk with him, and I'm like, you're a fucking saint, and I love you, and I want to just hug you the whole time you're talking. And like, I mean, there's still a few I'm chasing. Mike Allred, if you're out there, if you just wanted to go get like Slurpees or something, I'd love to just tell you that you're the best forever.
Or Jeff Lemire.
Jeff Lemire, another one where I just look. Jeff Lemire, hear me out.
Trust me, this is a Jeff Lemire podcast if I was in charge. So
Look, Jeff. I know you'll love Canada, but clearly you're a big star now and you have to move to Los Angeles. I'm just saying, we could start a beer hockey league together. Who else is going to offer you that in this town? I'm big.
Hey, Jeff, we're from the same town.
And to quote my boy, Joint Boy from Letterkenny, I'm garbage, but I can create some space out there. I'll be an enforcer for your delicate hands. You just score the goals. I'll make the space. Let's do this. Tom Goss can join the team too.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine a world where me, Jeff Lemire, and Tom Goss are on a hockey team?
That's
or as I call it, D4?
Oh my God.
I love that we got.
Oh my God. I need that movie.
I love that we got an American comic to come on a Canadian podcast to beg a Canadian comic book creator using a quote from a Canadian TV show.
Welcome to being with me, friend.
That was amazing. You've absorbed so much of our culture.
Mostly just Letterkenny.
Your immigration papers are already processed.
Oh, they were like, welcome to town, sir. Ask a bunch of people why they took the poem off the 5, because it bothers me.
I think that's the third time you've brought that up.
Because it really pisses me off. It was a beautiful thing on a terrible form of capitalism.
Have you gotten a chance to smell a $100 bill yet? It smells like maple.
Does it?
Yeah.
Some guy at the show the other night was telling me if I put a laser through the new 5, it creates, I don't know, the Batman sign or something.
Sure.
You used to be able to make Spock out of Laurier's face.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
Like all you do is just draw the hair and the ears on him, and
if
Laurier
I ever
looks
wondered what
like
stoned
Nimoy.
Canadians do.
Yeah, there you go.
It gets real cold and real boring.
Man, I can't wait for us to give you guys the rest of the internet.
Oh my God! You mean there's more than 3 pages?
Yeah, don't worry. It's gonna blow your mind.
No, because I mean, there's NHL.
Yeah,
and then there's the weather. Okay, and then there's maple syrup cost prices. Yeah.
The maple cost index.
Yeah, obviously.
The MCI.
What else would you need?
And
look,
yeahbuds.ca.
Yeah, buds. .ca.
Is that just Yeah Buds or like a weed website?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a multi-purpose site.
I like that.
A little bit of everything. It's our Amazon.
Yeah.
Their flash games are amazing.
We played a mini putt. And there's the fake sunlight on the internet.
Dear God.
We visit the Newgrounds and get advice from the strong bad.
Trust me, it's coming up. It's funny. That's so funny you brought that up. It's coming up. Don't worry.
Well, you talked about me in high school, so it's just Resident Evil 2 and Strong Bad flying through my head.
Fucking Trogdor. Okay.
But where was I? Oh, yes. But finding Grant Morrison's writing. And I remember, like, back then, like, reading New X-Men going, I like this, but there's something off about it.
Yeah.
There's something about Professor Xavier's space fetus sister, like, lighting everything on fire and then it jumping for the last few issues into the future to address nothing.
Yeah.
That, like... It was a weird thing because there was definitely a time where I kind of fell off of it because I don't think I was smart enough to figure out how good it is.
Well, but there's a thing too where, and
I even like the part with Magneto everybody hates.
Right. I mean, we'll probably touch on it when we talk about Final Crisis. But after Final Crisis was done, I believe there was an interview with Grant Morrison where he was like, don't read the detail. You should just be read how you feel.
Yes. Well, and I think that,
I think there's something to his work that's maybe meant to be more intuitive, and comic book fans are not that way. They're very 3 issues ago they were driving a car and the wheel was 3 inches to the left.
This comes to my issues with comic book culture entirely because one of the things that once I kind of gave into the Grant Morrison approach stuff, and really a lot of, I think it came into the way I look at film, the way I look at art, the way I look at books.
Yep.
I used to be very much in that type A mindset of it's all going to wrap together. It's got to be these things. It's got to have a logic to it. And you got to follow the rules, man.
Yeah.
And I love that I was this kid who's like, nah, punk rock, and I'm weird, and like I
Follow
reject
the
society,
rules.
but I got to go get in line with this other place and be uniformed.
Yeah, that's right.
And over time, the older I got, and I think maybe it comes from like writing and creating my own art and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At a certain point, especially with writing, but with a lot of stuff, playing guitar too, you hear stuff and stuff is great, but for me, part of the reason that This Is Rad exists and why I have all this useless knowledge is I'm always looking for something to blow my mind, because there's no better drugs on earth than when something like blows you back in your seat and you're just like, holy fuck, who did this? How did this happen? I need to know everything. That's why Evangelion broke my brain. That's why all these different things.
Like my favorite movie of all time, and I'm not about to try to defend it because I know a bunch of people hate it, but my absolute favorite movie of all time is Aronofsky's The Fountain.
Oh, interesting.
And I fucking love that. I think probably for the same reason that I like Morrison, which is like I can't explain precisely how time works in that movie or how like the narrative flows, but like I just get a sense from it. I feel like I understand it. I feel like I get it, and it like affected me visually and like the story.
To me, that was always why The Watchmen works as a comic and not a movie.
Yeah.
Is because the comic lets you feel things that the movie has to explain to you.
Sure, yeah.
And in that transference and that change of media, you lose that sense of like unspoken.
Yep.
It's why I like horror so much, is because it's literally trying to elicit emotions out of you wordlessly through like sense response.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that the human brain can do that, and the fact that like that is like a thing that we can manipulate in other humans, like my brain just immediately goes like, why aren't we doing that literally all the time? I have to undo my scarf for how pretentious I'm getting, because I'm literally
We're talking about Morrison. I think, is it ever a time to wear a scarf?
Put another scarf on.
Oh, my two scarves. They call that a tooski here.
Tufsky.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was it, and that didn't feel labored.
There's the pause in the middle is intentional.
Let's take a moment though and realize that Tufsky does sound like a Canadian phrase of some sort.
We have a literal form of currency called a toonie.
Yeah. So
and
Tufsky's
that's
not
where
that
it was.
far.
My brain was like, don't just say toonie, that's their money.
Toonie, Took, Tufsky. That works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's where you wear the money as a hat, because you're a real fun guy.
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah,
I love that I've slowly taken on your guys' Canadian accent.
Which is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a good, accurate representation.
It's more of like
anything.
I'm from Minnesota, though.
Yeah.
it's the out for a rip.
Oh, out for a rip there, bud.
I have started just saying bud when I'm not trying to be condescending.
makes me really happy.
And I'm gonna be I'm like that shitty kid who went to fucking England for a summer.
Suddenly have
and
an
now
accent.
has an accent.
Oh,
yeah.
Madonna.
Yeah. But I'm gonna be doing that
Look at that lorry.
yeah. But I'm
Right?
gonna be doing that with Bud and Boys.
If I can get you to start saying A, I'll be real happy.
That's the one I haven't hit, and it's the only one I still hear when I'm talking to people.
Really?
Like when one of them goes something A, like I'm just like, oh, that one's
Oh, that's
still,
a Canadian.
That's you still sound like Rick Moranis to me.
Do you know?
Oh, that good pull.
Do you know what? Do you know what I really like is that I think the phrase "fucking A" is both super Canadian and super American. We
Yeah.
have totally
Oh
different
my
ways.
God.
We have totally different ways of saying it, but like that's our common ground. I
Yes.
think like in Canada it's just like oh fucking A, and in the States
Fucking
it's
A.
like fucking A.
Yeah,
Oh my
it is
gosh.
the thing that keeps us both together.
Yeah.
It's what will help
Mexico,
us.
what do you?
They for sure have a version of that.
Well, on that note, this week's theme is Morrison. That's how we have to say it now. We're obliged. It's the only time I'm going to do it because I'll have to say it through the entire episode, and I refuse to do that. But this is an episode that has been long awaited because Colin hates this with every fiber of his being, almost as much as he hates Superman.
Since the 8th episode of this show, which is when I gave Colin Ultra
Why
Comics.
did you fuck this up for all of us?
Because he thought it would be funny.
I thought it would be funny, but
It's not.
It just made
There's
him
nothing
angry.
funny about Grant Morrison's work. As a professional comedian, I can say that.
Make sure that we don't file this under comedy this episode.
Oh, yeah, that's true. General.
Like
That's a Lipson joke.
That's not true. There's a moment in Doom Patrol that might be one of the funniest things I've read in a comic. Without a ton of spoilers, at the end of one of the arcs, when the brain in the jar and the gorilla break into their base and break Robot Man's body, and they're gonna explode, and the gorilla turns to the giant brain in the jar and goes, "Why did we do this? I just wanted to be with you." And then they just kiss and explode. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever read.
Brain and Monsieur
Brain in
Mala.
a jar, making out with the gorilla, and then they explode because they've always been in love.
Holy shit, that's amazing.
But since
That or just when the Justice League watch them crawl into the painting without words and just go, I hate them.
yeah,
Which is all
That's a
of
great
comic
one.
book fans talking about Grant Morrison.
that's true.
That's too funny.
But basically, since that time, since I got Colin super pissed at me, we've sort of eschewed Morrison where possible.
And you're actually a pretty big Morrison fan.
I love Morrison.
That's what your wife told me.
I can't,
No, I mean,
you
legitimately.
son of a bitch.
No, we just
That's
had a
my
conversation.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm
She
not
was just
jealous.
like, oh, you're going to talk about Grant Morrison with my husband, and the relief in her eyes that someone was going to do this for him.
Well, we quote unquote joked one time.
She
that
grabbed my arm and I said, you're hurting me, man.
Call someone. We quote unquote joked that I'm just constantly talking about comic books, and then once a week I wander in here and the mics start rolling for 2 hours, and then I leave, and you're just catching
what you
wherever
wanna
I
talk
am in
about.
the conversation.
Well, I like the idea that that's the time I don't feel like it anymore. You're not my wife who's trying to sleep.
No, but you don't understand what happened with Swamp Thing though recently.
I think
You understand, after Lemire left, it really fell apart.
there was literally a morning, I think, where I had woken up early and I was just checking my phone, as you do, because it's
Yeah.
the 21st century. And then I heard her shift. She wasn't awake, but I was like, she's shifting. That's movement. And I just leaned over and I said something like, the Swamp Thing Winter Special is going to have a story by Len Wein.
Oh, does it?
It does. It was one that he was working on, but they put it out like textless because he didn't finish it. before
Oh,
he died.
shit.
So it's just.
Oh, that's
Imagery.
badass. And like, so the words end and then just like the drawings kind of finish it out.
It's basically just drawings.
I'm like getting a little teary thinking.
It's amazing.
That's so good.
But I like rolled over in the morning and I was like, Brenda, you're not going to believe it. Len Wein's final story is going to be in the Swamp Thing Winter Special. She was like,
Look, you're about to have a child, doctor. I want you to stay with your wife. Please don't do that.
yeah, well,
I think it's far too late for that.
yeah. She made her bed.
And then you happen to crawl in and go, I've got more thoughts on. I reviewed Crisis on Infinite Earths. It really is an airtight story.
Do you know the thing that doesn't hold up about Pax Americana?
I'm thinking of rereading American Flag.
But Doc, where does your knowledge, like, where does your Morrison story start?
My Morrison story starts relatively late.
He's a grown-up comic book writer.
Admit. I the comics that I had from my dad are from like the 60s and 70s.
Definitely not
They're like-
Morrison at all.
Yeah,
Golden
it's-
Age. Yeah.
But he
like-
read all that stuff, and I feel like he represents a lot of the idealism from the Bronze Era of comics. So fuck you, Richard.
Okay, goodbye.
You banished him. It's incredible.
It's okay.
I'm Canadian now.
Never leave.
I'm Richard. Website.
Oh my God, he knows me so well.
But yeah, I mean, like, I think by the time that I was like getting back into comics, I was looking for something. I mean, I will always read the kind of mainstreamy stuff because I do just like watching Superman punch bricks. But that being said, I always appreciate like, you know, like the quote unquote the snobby comics.
See, then you're
right?
one
Like
of the good ones.
I like.
I love that, like, the
like
American
Jeff
partisan
Lemire's-
politics is almost perfectly represented in comic nerddom.
It's so true. I love Jeff Lemire's Animal Man run,
Oh,
and that was before I had ever touched Grant Morrison's Animal Man run.
Fucking, I'm gonna be honest with you. I like it better than
I do
Grant
too,
Morrison's run.
but
I
I-
love Grant Morrison's run. Jeff Lemire's Animal Man is maybe one of the great perfect things in comics.
It's incredible. That I love that. But I probably encountered Morrison for the first time. Weirdly, it's not like the best era, but in the New 52 because I started reading
Superman?
action comics.
It's so good.
His action comics run in the first however many issues that was.
Still not my all-time favorite because that fucking All-Star Superman is the jam.
But the one that stood out
good.
for me during that run, it's the New 52 Action Comics issue number 9. It's just a weird sidestep story to Earth 23 with President Superman, and then you also encounter Super Doomsday from Earth 45. You get all of these like pieces of what Morrison had been establishing during Final Crisis, and he was just like, yeah, I know they rebooted the continuity, but I don't give a shit. I'm going to use the shit that I wrote anyway.
Yeah.
And he just like kept going with it, and that I found like super fascinating. And then when Multiversity came around, I
Which
dove in head
I started
first.
trying to read on a plane slightly hungover 2 weeks ago and was like, ooh, this is not the time to do this.
Yeah.
This is a book I'm going to have to, like, you know, sit down and do some paying attention to.
Especially things like Mastermen or Pax Americana, like and Ultra Comics. Those three are like super dense of that series. But then, so it was like those two things first. And then I kind of doubled back and gave Final Crisis the old college try and read,
here's where I'll make
read
the
some of his
confession.
Animal Man
I
and
have
read some
not
Doom
read
Patrol.
Final Crisis. So here's the thing.
J'accuse.
It that came out smack dab in the middle of when I was probably reading comics the least. Which is ironic because I was actively working at a comic book store at the time.
And you avoided all of Final Crisis?
I wasn't avoiding all of Final Crisis. I was
All
avoiding
80 issues
I was
and, like,
avoiding
tie-ins?
comics in general at that point, just because it was. That was when I was really.
Is it like working at Burger King? You're like, I don't want a Whopper.
Sorta. Actually, I'll be honest, kinda. That was sort of what it was, because I was at Meltdown for podcast and tech and all this stuff, and there was a layer of you're around it so much, and not only are you around it so much, being part of Nerdist and being part of Meltdown and being around that comic
Fucking nerds
culture,
drive you nuts.
I mean, yes, but in a very specific way where because I do comedy and I write and I try to make short films and I have like 1,000 things I try to do creatively. I don't have the time to be like entertained by stuff. It's sort of like how with a TV show, when somebody says, well, you got to wait through the first 3 hours and then it gets good.
I don't have the first
I was
hour.
like, cool, I will never watch this show.
Yeah.
If it's not compelling in the first minute and a half, I don't give a shit.
But
don't
Mad
have
Men
the time.
eventually gets really good.
It's why I think I'm such a fierce loyalist for Channel Zero, is that it's good from
the
literally the
beginning,
second
yeah.
it's from the first frame to the end. It's the best thing.
Yeah.
Have you watched any of that show?
I haven't.
If you are like an art house guy, the first season is the thing I can't believe was on television.
All right.
It
There we
is
go.
so weird and so dark and so unsettling, and there's no tropey stuff to it. It's just fucking weird and scary, and there's imagery with it that I think about both in an upsetting way, but also in a like, God, that's the coolest thing ever.
Right.
And it was so simple.
I'll have to give that a go.
It's
then.
the second season's okay. Then this third season, I'm about 2 episodes away from the end, and it's so good.
Yeah.
It's
called Channel Zero.
Channel Zero.
Right, I'll
It's
do that.
an anthology show, like what's it called? Like American Horror Story, but
Sure,
it's all
yeah.
based on creepypastas. So each
Nice.
season's everyone.
And it's actually good for the other seasons.
It's so fucking good. Hey man, that show is hit or miss, and either way, who cares? Ryan Murphy's huffing an E for the rag and typing stuff with his boner. Like,
So,
that's how that show is for sure made. Like, and if you don't think that's good,
well, you
writing,
top witches.
then, like, again, I feel like you're missing the point where I like writers who are upsetting.
It's both sexually and authorally.
It's just whatever you got going. Like,
But to a little bit, like, segue this.
Yes.
Morrison, though not upsetting, I think does touch on the sort of like confusing, like, I can't believe this was a comic book. Kind of.
And that
kind
brings
of
me
thing.
back to and it took me, it took hearing him articulate it at one point, and it was actually, this is going to sound like both a name drop and a humble brag, but like, I got to be on the episode of Nerdist where he was interviewed.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We need to touch it.
Because I've met him a few times. Right when I first started working at Meltdown, he did a show there where it was him getting interviewed by Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance.
fuck.
Who is
Doom
The
Patrol.
fucking
who is
dork
fucking-
comic masturbatory meeting.
and at the same time, that it's amazing because he's also basically Grant Morrison's acolyte, in my opinion. And
yeah.
man, no one wants to not give that guy credit. I think his band is fine. Like they've got some jams. They're like
That first album's pretty decent.
and sometimes they sound like Queen, and that's fun. And either way, both of those guys I got to meet that night, and they were both very nice. Actually, that night, Gerard Way, he wrote the introduction to the first volume of Young Liars from Vertigo, the David Lapham book, which if nobody's read, it's a real fucking gem of a series that nobody read.
Yeah, that's true.
And I ran up to him and was like, hey man, this is going to come out of nowhere. And you could tell that he's like, has a lot of people who go, hey man, I think your band is great because that's what you're famous for. Or even, hey man, I like Umbrella Academy because you're currently writing that.
Right.
And I ran up to him, hey man, the introduction you wrote for Young Liars was fucking awesome.
And he was hooked.
And we talked for 45 minutes
of
about
course.
how great David Lapham is.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he appreciated
And-
someone that knew his
And
actual work.
that was a
Yeah.
cool story because I got to bring my friend Brandon to it. Like years later, my friend who's been my like nerd guru for everything, I got to bring to introduce me to Grant Morrison.
Right.
And he ended up having this great thing where he met like April O'Neil, the porn actress, used to hang out at our stuff a lot. She is a legit.
I got really excited, then real confused.
She is a legit nerd ass nerd, by the way. Just for anybody who ever questions
I'm
her
still a
credibility.
little bit thinking of the Ninja Turtles.
Sure.
I'm excited about that being also a porn star.
Oh, so you guys are unfamiliar with her work? Your listeners are.
Up until like 10 minutes from now.
No comment.
Yeah, sure. Oh, I forgot. 2 married adult men in Canada. This is as impolite a conversation as possible.
Pornography is like a capital crime up here.
It's too cold for a boner up here.
So anyways, here's the nice version. Here, I'll Canadianize it.
Okay, let's do it.
She's around. She's a super cool lady. She's done our podcast. I think she's a real great. And she is a legit nerd. She is a hardcore Doctor Who fan to a point that is like upsetting.
Hardcore in so many ways.
Hey man, I will not have you disrespect my porn star friend. She and my friend Brandon start talking about Doctor Who. I leave, go have that conversation, go do all this other stuff. I come back 2 hours later. They are still talking about Doctor Who.
And here's the thing with the Weeping Angels.
Yeah. Oh, they're going back to Tom Baker shit. They're talking shit that I don't even know. And what's funny is at some point in their conversation, it comes up that he has a date scheduled with this girl that he likes, that he met at Borders in the comic book section.
Right.
And he's asking her for advice about how he should go about on this date, and she gives him some advice. He's now married to that woman. That's the woman he went to Salt Lake City with.
Holy
and like,
shit.
It was super cute just because like he was telling this like porn star who loves Doctor Who stuff about how sweet he is on this girl he's been hanging out with for a long time. And some of the advice she gave him worked out.
That's an incredible story.
It's a lot of fun. And that was all at a Grant Morrison event because she also loves some Grant Morrison because people have taste.
Yeah.
And but talking to him, like all these different things have gone. So I'd met Grant a couple of times. I'm gonna call him Grant Morrison. It feels weird to say that. I will.
Grant. Yeah, my buddy Grant.
I'm gonna throw this out though. Cool fact about Grant Morrison: he doesn't drive. His wife does. And his wife is super cool and just a lady who just sits around looking like she's not to be fucked with. She is a badass lady, and he realized that since his wife drives him around everywhere, she should drive in style, and he bought her a fucking crazy sports car. So she just has this fucking silver Batmobile, and so like that car's just sitting around. And then when it's time to go, she just hops in the thing. He goes and sits all comfortably in the other seat, and they speed off. But like he had explained it at some point, he's like, I don't drive. But what am I gonna do? Have my wife drive some lame car around?
I like that attitude.
Yeah,
That's
and
attitude.
like they are super cool. I helped them back out of a parking space once.
In their cool,
that was a weird
their
day.
Cool silver
like I
Batmobile.
showed up and like they're trying to go, and I'm like, "Don't worry, Grant Morrison and his wife, your fan will help."
I'll wave you out.
But we sat down for this interview, and he talked about how he's kind of sad that the way comic books are now is everybody is just making a demo for a movie.
Right. Yeah.
And what is cool about comics, and a thing that he does in his books, and I think that all of the comic book writers that I really love do in their books, is that like I love comics as a genre.
Yeah.
I don't look at a comic and go, oh my God, I wish this was a movie.
Yeah.
The same way I don't like look at a fucking, there we go. That is, I know exactly the cross section that is.
Yeah, dope ass car. Yeah. Sorry.
But like I love that.
He's doing something like medium specific, like that only comics could do.
When I the same way when I read a book, I don't go, oh, I wish this was a movie. The same way when I listen to like, a record, I don't wish it was a painting.
Right.
Like they're things that exist in their own way. And what's cool about comics, maybe more than anything else, is it's the ultimate like. There's no rules in comics.
Yeah.
Like books can be experimental. Like, Naked Lunch is great. House of Leaves is great. There's a lot of cool things out there that play with the format. But like comic books can do fuck off anything.
Yeah.
You get the right writer and artist and concept, and you can create. Whoa, that was weird.
Sorry.
You can create so many. Literally anything, and create these visuals and tell stories and create narratives that don't have to follow. It's that super conservative nerd thing of, well, if it doesn't follow this 3-act structure, then why even tell the story? I'm like, because maybe I don't want to feel feelings like a robot. Yeah, like maybe I want a thing that like makes me uncomfortable and I have to walk around with like. Have you ever seen Possession?
No.
The movie,
No.
What's his name? It's a Polish director made it. It's Sam Neill and Isabella Adjani.
Oh, no.
It's a brutal movie about divorce that also involves like Lovecraftian vagina monsters.
Oh.
And I watched that movie and I walked around for 2 weeks going, did I hate this or is this the best movie I've ever seen?
I mean, that's like if there's like a tagline for Morrison, it's definitely that.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. He goes I do like that it's that like almost like modernist idea of like what can this medium do that no other medium is able to replicate.
It's the same way as an English major when I was in college that like it's the same reason that like T.S. Eliot and Gertrude Stein and like Langston Hughes like got my dick hard is that it's people who are just like, oh fuck you, the English language is our bitch. We will do with it what we please. And that is why I have a copy of like Tender Buttons on my shelf. Because like Gertrude Stein was like, fuck yourself with words. This is a shit we made up.
Yeah.
Everything you believe is wrong because thoughts are a construction within your mind that are supposed to be wordless. And you're just like, fuck, I have to live with that now. You just ruined everything.
Well, I know. I mean, we've got a ton of.
Has anybody else brought up Gertrude Stein on your podcast before?
No, that's definitely a first.
Weird, the 10th time that's happened.
I don't want
know.
to be hacky, guys.
One time, Colin brought up Fahrenheit 451.
There we go. That's a fun book.
Yeah.
That's a book about how people should read books.
Yeah,
It's kind of like that Twilight Zone that takes the opposite stance where a guy's like, I love reading. And they're like, fuck you. Books are lame. TV exists now.
And yet he doesn't like Grant Morrison. I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, there's we've got a lot of questions from people that I do think
We got so many fucking questions.
I do think on some level, almost everyone that asked a question, no matter how aggressively they've worded it,
Which, just wait for the first question.
They do enjoy Morrison on some level.
Maybe not this first one.
He is infectious.
But there's something about. It's also the thing that he chooses to talk about. Like, you can tell through all of his work, there's like a real, like, he has a belief in the power of storytelling. That's like the big overarching like thesis of Grant Morrison's oeuvre, if you can use that word. Like, it's that he is all about the power of storytelling, that like creative power. It's literally the power of creation. And he's fucked me up because he put fucking our world into the multiverse and said like comic books are just us getting subconscious impressions from other realities. Yeah. And I was like, well, fuck, that's shit.
It's funny because we've how long have we been talking? For an hour?
Yeah, it's just like a This Is Rad. It's the
We
intro.
haven't gotten into chaos magic. We haven't gotten into his parallel worlds theories or his like the spirituality of art. And we haven't talked about literally anything he's made. And on top of that,
answered a single question.
And I will throw this out, like the other thing that I really appreciate about him, and this will just piss off your listeners even more. He's like an artist-ass artist where he like makes a thing and then throws it away, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work. Because he is my favorite comic book writer, and I in no way, shape, or form stand behind everything he's ever made.
Of course not.
There are some hot trash piles, but in between those hot trash piles, and that's,
we might talk about Batman R.I.P.
yeah. Oh, we sure will, because it's not a thing that you should really get excited about.
Yeah.
His whole Batman run, it's weird. Some of my favorite and least favorite things he's done involve the Caped Crusader.
Totally.
But on the flip side, I could say that about Garth Ennis. Yeah. For every great thing he's done, there's plenty of stuff where I'm like, maybe we didn't need to make that.
Yeah.
Maybe the world is a worse place because Crossed exists. And that's a book I kind of like, but I'm like, this is bad for people.
Yeah. But I mean, I think there's something.
David Latham's career
There's
too.
something to like appreciate in that he's just.
I like 4 writers.
I know. I can tell.
He's got like something that he has that he like needs to get out of his brain, that he has to like put out there. And I think even he. I mean, you're the one that met him. I've listened to interviews with him, but I get the sense that he's the sort of guy that's like, yeah, that didn't really work.
Yeah, he and that's
whatever.
what I love about him. That he is that kind of like Howard Hughes. I'm gonna build the aircraft, and sometimes it crashes and I catch on fire. Doesn't mean I don't build another weird plane and try it again. It's funny to me that like Happy is the first adaptation of a thing he's ever had, and it's such a like low entry in a thing.
Yeah, it really is.
But at the same time, like, and it's not even like everything he makes has the same. It's why like. Somebody like Neil Gaiman, who used to be my favorite writer, and then somewhere along the line got soft and lame. But on top of that, kind of writes the same story over and over again. It's always like, imagination is inside of you. Yeah. My shoes have curls on them. And then he disappears.
Yeah.
And it used to be dope because it was like, and you find that out by nailing a severed man's head to a face. Now he's like, I'm married to the Dresden Dolls lady. I can't be cool anymore.
Yeah.
She's the cool one, and I just write kind of soft shit.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, like Grant Morrison, like We Three
is so good.
And let's just pick something random. And Arkham Asylum, you
Very
could
different.
say that they are from 2 totally different authors.
Yeah.
Even things where he's exploring the same idea again.
They're not the same. Yeah.
The filth is a mess, but it's also fucking, when it's good, it's transcendently great.
Yeah.
When it's a mess, it's annoying or like confusing, but then all of a sudden there's spaceships powered by Catholic churches flying through other dimensions. And you're like, oh, fuck everything. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you get all of those versions because he's just a guy doing it kind of in the same way that coming out of 2000 AD, like those guys were just pushing to like, what's the craziest idea we can come up with? Yeah. And that's the version of sci-fi, fantasy, horror stuff that made me into whatever this like capitalized version of a nerd is.
Sure.
Is like, I don't care about who's the strongest and how we can defeat this. I love like, how can you break my brain with an abstract idea?
Yeah.
And he's the most fun version of that because he's like also well drug. He's like the Peter Pan of let's take ayahuasca and think about how we aren't real.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
so it's funny you say that. Let's go to the first question
Here we
because
go.
you're
Don't go breaking my heart.
I wouldn't if I tried.
Because neither of us can sing.
That's right.
Also, we've been yelling for days.
Oh my God. So we're heading to Facebook.
Yay.
Yeah, to the face and the book. We're going to the Facebook.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't get embarrassed in front of your fucking friend.
Oh, hey, Richard, do you have a little theme song you want to sing?
Going to a face and the book. Over to the Facebook.
Yeah, now do the dance.
Why do you make him take his shirt off
Don't worry about it. The
and
sponsors.
put on another Shin shirt?
Oh God. How did you know I had this one underneath?
We're all wearing 2 shirts here. It's a nerd podcast.
Yeah, you goddamn right.
It's a nerd version of Spanx.
Oh my God. Okay, well, Doc, I'm gonna need your help with this
Well,
first.
you've got to
then.
have a T-shirt and then your Silk Dragon Ball Z shirt over that so that nobody can see your body shape.
You're so right. The first question comes from Chad Bokelman.
Bogle, bogle, bogle.
Yo, Chad.
So he says, how the holy fuck does a whistle save the universe, Morrison? How does the work in your bald, Scottish, foggy, plotline ass head? Yeah.
Oh, so you're mad? So you're mad that a Deus Ex Machina became a thing?
So I'm
I'm sorry. Luke's targeting computer doesn't work, but his ghost wizard friend comes into his brain and gives him superpowers to do this.
To be fair,
Jesus is murdered and comes back 3 days later through magic. Storytelling is dumb and a sham.
to be fair, I think Bokelman's just butthurt because he runs a Green Lantern podcast and he's never done Green Lantern. So,
God.
Morrison.
well.
I can't
okay.
even fathom what a Grant Morrison fucking
Right?
Green Lantern book would be.
Right?
Yeah.
There would be people burning comic books in the streets.
Imagine a man who's just like everything is like made up, reality isn't real, and then you give him the
the
weapon,
space cops.
but the weapon that turns thought into reality.
And he makes it a Gnort.
Even DC Comics is like, we can't do that, man.
Well, actually, the answer to that is actually the answer to this question, I think, because Morrison does do that in Final Crisis. So that's what I know there are more questions about Final Crisis, so I won't.
Oh yeah.
I won't go too.
And I feel
broadly.
bad for not doing my homework on this.
It's okay. You're not
clearly
missing
someday
much.
I'll have to come back and do a Final Crisis, PS episode.
I'm
So
okay
would
with
be
that.
amazing,
Yeah, without a doubt.
So I won't go
Finally, an
too.
excuse to buy it on Comixology.
Finally, an excuse to come back.
Girl, you know I love you.
Aww. David, please.
So, but yeah, Whistle
I
are
won't
bad.
go, I won't go too deep into it because we have other Final Crisis to talk about. But basically, at one point during Final Crisis, in the future, Brainiac 5, member of the Legion of Superheroes, shows Superman this thing called the Miracle Machine. And the Miracle Machine is constructed using the combined power of like the green light of will. And basically, this machine has the ability to do literally anything. And Superman he's phasing back into his own time. He doesn't have time to actually use the machine. So he like X-ray scans it, memorizes the schematics, and then in the past, in his own time, has to rebuild it. So then the whistle thing comes back around because Morrison sets up, Morrison didn't set it up, but in Flash 123, like way back, we set up the idea not only of the multiverse, that there was like Earth 2 and Earth 1, but also that they were separated as like vibrational
is this New
planes.
52 or this is before?
This is before.
Okay.
But they're set up as like vibrational planes. The first time the Flash goes to another Earth, it's the first time anyone goes to another Earth. He vibrates at a weird frequency and he pops into Earth 2 where Jay Garrick is. Morrison takes that even further and basically sets up that the fabric of the multiverse is in like harmonic resonance.
So far, this all checks out to me.
Very Morrison. Very Morrison. So
I wish I didn't just believe these things like they're science.
right? Yeah. I mean, in a way, it actually
The,
makes
the,
me.
the hippie in me is just like, yeah, man.
I wouldn't be surprised to learn that Morrison is actually like homaging Tolkien in a way, because the creation story in Lord of the Rings is called The Music of the Ainur, and basically it's a song that creates Arda.
Yeah, just in case you were unaware, this was almost the Dr. Lord of the Rings podcast.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
podcast,
yeah.
Well, and if you look at it, like, because he is a very like metatextual author,
Yeah.
and he wears his influences on his sleeves all the time, and the more of those influences you can connect, The same way I like with bands, when you hear like, oh, this band sounds like this meets this.
Yeah.
Grant Morrison is that for narrative.
Totally.
In that, like, with things like this, what you're describing literally just sounds like it is Lord of the Rings origin story mixed with Harlan Ellison's every story he wrote at a certain point.
Yeah, basically.
Where it's like, what if you go to the edge and meet God and realize that you can come back and ruin everyone's day?
Yeah, that's right.
Get off my lawn. Unless you're a lady. In which case, shut up. That's Harlan Ellison talking.
Well,
Have you ever heard Harlan Ellison talk?
No, it's true.
It's not good.
but
It's a bad time.
Yeah.
But basically, because the multiverse operates on...
You seem so nervous about that joke. I can't tell which
Oh my
part.
God. Trust me, I've said much, much worse
Right?
things
And
on
I
this
was
podcast.
like, wait, he said that you're the dark one. And
Yeah, no. I'm terrible, terrible person. It's okay.
that's
should
what they
I be
all
considered?
said.
Because of this harmonic resonance thing, as the multiverse is crumbling through the events of Final Crisis, Superman rebuilds the Miracle Machine. He finds this element X in Metron's chair that he can use to power it. And so to make like this, to use the Miracle Machine, he uses a vibrational frequency. He basically like whistles.
Yeah, this makes
He
sense.
whistles his wish into the machine.
That's
and
not
his-
even the dumbest thing a Superman story's ever done.
It's not at all. And he wishes for a happy ending, and things turn out. That's literally basically how Final Crisis ends. Spoiler alert.
And if you think about it on a certain level, that is, again, kind of a metatextual riff on the end of Superman 1.
Yeah.
Where, like, Superman doesn't get what he wants, so through a series of happenstance of the abstract idea of being Superman alters the way that narratives would go into a creation of something that gives you a happy ending because Superman has to have a happy ending.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, exactly.
So it is just the shitty time travel thing or pulling an S off of a chest. Grant Morrison's literally just doing the same thing as Richard Donner did.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, this thing with the Miracle Machine and this like particular moment of Superman like saving the day with like this wish on the Miracle Machine is the thing that makes the most sense in Final Crisis. I mean, anything like else about Final Crisis, we'll get into stuff later about like the monitors and Mandrak, the like vampire monitor, and like
He does love the monitors.
and how Darkseid's fall somehow pulls the multiverse
So-
in with him.
Legitimate question for
Yeah.
me as somebody who has not read it. I think largely because like I find a lot of DC in continuity work daunting because
Sure.
I've come to DC, but part of what I liked about it is it's a little easier to compartmentalize sometimes and like read up. Like you can drill down without having to go through like. It's not like if I want to like read the last 10 years of Avengers, I have to
Yeah.
read like a bunch of trash to get to a bunch
Yeah,
of good
Marvel
stories.
terrifies me for that reason.
And
yeah.
DC has chunks of that. So, like, legitimate question: does Final Crisis have a ton to do with Rock of Ages? Because he's using a lot of the same players on the table, so it makes me think that.
It doesn't really, but as we
Russell Brand?
Was Russell Brand in Rock of
Yeah, he
Ages?
was.
Yeah, he was.
Who was he in Rock of
It was-
Ages?
It was the
I
one
don't
of the
know
bar
characters.
I saw that movie in theaters. And I don't
It was one of the
remember.
bar owners.
Was he?
Yeah, it was him and what's his name?
Alec Baldwin?
Alec Baldwin, and they kiss at the end.
Cause I can't fight this feeling.
I think I saw that movie on like a Tuesday with my mom.
And high, apparently.
No, not that time. Do we own Rock of Ages? I'm
feel
gonna go back and watch this movie and trust that you're right.
No, I am.
I just wanted to see how confident you'd be about Rock of Ages. No. Trust me. I secretly watch it every day.
I've got it on VHS and DVD.
They didn't even make it on VHS. He made
Wow.
this copy.
Two
He
archaic formats.
That's right.
Hey man, those Blu-rays still play in, or those DVDs still play in Blu-ray players.
That's true.
You goddamn right.
I have
they
a
do.
huge DVD collection. I can't talk.
Like those people who are like doubling down. I'm like, not until like somebody magic puts this out.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we should move to the next question.
Yeah,
All right, we're
that's
heading.
probably a thing.
We're heading to Twitter.
Stop getting embarrassed in front of your friend.
Yeah, what's happening?
That's not stuttering. That's just how I
Are
say
you
it.
embarrassed? Wait, really?
Yeah,
Oh, now you should
unfortunately.
be embarrassed.
Yeah, no, I'm the king of creativity here.
You just want a soundboard real bad.
No,
and I don't understand.
Stop! Don't use that word. No, don't
Is
let
this
him
like
do it.
Beetlejuice? Do I have to say it 3 more times?
No, don't say it.
Soundboard. Soundboard.
Oh my god.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
This is legitimately the first time I've seen Richard smile in 3 days. Keep going. Keep going. You can tell how Canadian you are because you're not just blasting it at full blast in there over and over again.
Well, I don't want to upset anyone.
Hey, we have neighbors.
Wait, no.
Bud.
That's better.
It just keeps going. Or would you rather hear it in?
This is like a Jackass intro to Watchmen.
It keeps going too.
Why?
Because it's the greatest thing ever.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, so our first question comes from Stump Chunkman. Stump. Check it to the chum.
So we meet again, my friend.
That's right. He follows you wherever you go. I'll try to say this like how I feel like he wants it said. The fuck happened in Batman R.I.P.?
Look, just don't. And that's coming from a huge Grant Morrison fan, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Don't.
Well, here,
if you're thinking of reading a Grant Morrison comic and you're thinking of making it Batman R.I.P.,
don't
message me on Twitter. I'll talk you off the ledge, and we'll find a good book to read.
I want to make Stump's question more specific and throw it to you.
Okay.
The fuck is with the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh and Batman R.I.P.?
You know? Again, I feel like I have to qualify this with this is an author I like a lot.
Yeah.
I block out a lot of that book because I don't remember at any point reading it and not being mad.
Sure, yeah.
Like,
that's reasonable because that book is not good, frankly.
And I've probably read it twice.
Yeah.
And both times was like, because there's books I've read before where like I hated it the first time and then I came back to it. Like, I'll be honest, the first time I read the first volume of The Invisibles, I did not click.
Sure.
I was not ready for it. I was still a little too straight. Like my brain hadn't gotten freaky with the ideas of weirdness.
Yeah.
And so it didn't. I was like, fucking John Lennon and a bunch of gibberish words. I hate this. And then years later, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
That book,
I am an octopus.
It's just doesn't hit the mark. And it's weird because I feel like it came out in rapid succession with like 2 or 3. I think it's why everybody lost their goddamn minds when Scott Snyder showed up.
Yeah.
Is because
There you go.
2 or 3 books in a row by big authors trying to deconstruct Batman just fucking, because that's right around the same time I want to say is whatever happened at the Cape Crusader.
Oh, it might be, yeah.
Like those are kind of the similar, and like and granted, Batman R.I.P. I would say sucks.
Yeah.
It doesn't suck as bad as whatever happened. Whatever happened at the Cape Crusader might be the worst comic I've ever read.
Do you hate it more than Widening Gyre?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Here's the thing: Widening Gyre at least has a layer of like it's trying something.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
But
it's going for
it's going for it, and it takes a swing and it misses like nobly.
Yeah.
You know, it was in earnest trying to go for something. Whatever happened to Cape Crusader, it's just bad.
Yeah.
It's a bad comic. It's bad the way like a 90s like X-Force issue is bad, where you're just like like people are working really hard on this, and why?
Yeah.
And it was also, I think, because it was so prestige, and really the irony of tugging on Superman's cape, going after that fucking whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is again maybe one of the best single things in like it's funny for a guy who doesn't like Superman that much. There's like 4 or 5 Superman stories that I think are some of the best a superhero comic can strive for. Between that, All-Star,
Superman for All Seasons.
Superman for All Seasons. The what's the fucking one where it's that they turned into the animated movie with the 3 aliens that come and they're fucking with Superman, and then in the end he's like, "I beat you while still being me."
with the Ultras face?
Yeah,
that's All-Star.
Is that in there?
Yeah.
That's that one? Okay. Then
So
there's
All-Star twice.
All-Star twice. It's that good.
But Alan Moore's Superman Annual 11 for the Man Who Has Everything?
Yes. There's when Superman goes for broke,
yeah,
it is truly a glorious thing.
Yeah.
On the flip side, like when, Batman is relatively hard to fuck up, but when you do it, it's pretty spectacular.
Well, it goes epic
I do a little bit want to specifically address this Zur-En-Arrh thing, because I think if you're talking about Batman R.I.P., you kind of have to.
Yeah.
So in the 60s, there was this thing called the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. He's a Batman from another planet that basically had the powers of Superman. But
sounds cool.
He's all multicolored.
He wore this colorful batsuit. Like,
Not so cool.
And it
looks like something Bob Kane would come up with.
You can see, and I think that like, and even in that's okay. That and the idea that like the decades of Batman are like really happened.
Yeah.
Like I love the idea of that.
Yeah.
I sure would.
Sounds awesome.
I would, and that was really a selling point for me. Was like, man, some of this stuff sounds like great ideas.
Yeah.
It's the same way. like in high school, I kept trying to read the book Diary from Chuck Palahniuk.
Oh, yeah.
Because I loved the idea of it. And then every time I read it, I'd huck it across the room and go, this is a shitty book.
So what Morrison did with this Zur-En-Arr thing, took this Silver Age concept of this alien otherworld Batman,
Which was
with
a cool
powers,
idea.
and he made it like a sub part of Batman's psyche, like
Yes.
a broken part of
Again,
Batman's psyche.
still a cool idea.
Called Zur-En-Arr, that you later learn is named that because his father says something after they go see that movie where he's like, they would have thrown someone like Zorro in Arkham.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Which again, I'm fine with.
It's just fine, but that Zur-En-Arr thing and Batmite as well, another weird
Again,
Silver Age concept.
love that.
They come in as parts of Batman's broken
Did I like
psyche
RIP
that he
after all
had.
this time? Am I gonna have to
Oh,
read
no.
this fucking thing again?
Well, because
Are you tricking me into reading this a third time and getting mad?
the concept is basically that Batman has like made these sort of like psychic safeguards against him going insane, and in the course of him going insane, he becomes the Batman of Zur-En-Arr. He perceives Batmite, and then like somehow kind of gets his sanity back by the end, but like not really. It's like kind of like Batman goes fucking nuts. Is basically that, like that's what the fuck happened to Batman.
I
RIP.
will
He goes
throw this
fucking
out
nuts.
with Batman RIP because I think that it has one of the problems of it, and I feel like someone who does not like the book, this doesn't seem like something that I think it's so short
Yeah.
that like it, and this is a thing Grant Morrison does from time to time, where something like is a great idea, but if he doesn't have enough time to hit it all the way through, it's the same problem I have like 30 Days of Night does the same problem,
Well,
where
'cause
like
he- 'cause
it's a
he
great idea that's so short that you can't get the level of detail
Because he won't
you
take
need into
pieces
it.
out.
Yes.
we're not allowed to talk about that movie up here, eh?
But you guys are the opposite problem. You're literally the most safe from vampires.
It's true. All
Only
the
in
time.
the summer. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, Morrison
this
won't take.
fantastical Canadian summer you guys always talk about.
Just you wait, eh?
Hey, come back in a couple of months; it'll be real nice.
Yeah, and then you get up here and they're like, "Oh, you should have seen it a few months ago."
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
It'll get bad again. We'd be present now, but we don't know how.
That's so stupid. Holy shit. Are we ready to go to the next question?
Sure,
But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
essentially,
It's a-
Batman R.I.P. is an interesting concept, but it suffers because Morrison refuses to take out pieces when he's not given enough time.
or make it longer.
Yeah.
If he had cut any one of those ideas out, I think it would have been a little more coherent. Or if it had been twice as long, it could be a
But
masterpiece.
he basically tries to like come up with like a rationalization for these in continuity Silver Age like weird aberrations like Zur-En-Arr and Batmite. It doesn't really stick. It doesn't work.
It feels like a cool pitch.
Yeah.
And it feels like a cool idea he had that he couldn't fit into another Batman story.
It feels
so he's
like-
fuck it, it's going here.
It feels like someone said, like, this is awesome, we should workshop this, and then someone heard, send it to print.
Yes.
And that's what happened.
100%.
Yeah.
It feels like a thing that just isn't done.
Yeah.
But it also preps you for all the other weird Batman stuff he's got going, some of which is good, some of which is not so good.
It's certainly not the weirdest Morrison thing, but it's maybe one of the most frustrating.
Yes.
Because it doesn't stick the
And that's the
landing.
thing is when he's super weird, but it doesn't land. Sometimes I'm like, sure, like we give it a shot. See, guys, a book.
Yeah.
And then other times it's just that. It's just
Yeah.
So if Chris Hardwick...
question number 3.
Yeah, if Chris Hardwick went back to 2001 and made an after show for Smallville, it would be this next guest. Talking Superman says...
It'd be called Talking Small.
It'd be called Talkville. What are you talking about?
Oh, that's good.
I feel like
You
we've
want a
already
job?
done this.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes. Is this happening?
You're coming down.
Holy shit, it's real.
Practice
Okay.
your zombie puns, friend.
Okay, so Talking Superman says...
Richard's like, no.
No.
It's supposed to be me.
Oh, no, all the work. You're getting your website taken away.
What website?
That's a good point. Do you believe...
No, that's not true. You did a real good job. I feel bad saying that.
Oh, I love you. It's okay.
We're actively cuddling, all three of us. You should know that.
Kiss
Yes.
him.
Talking Superman says, do you believe including...
A lot of people just went, huh?
Wow.
Well, they're going to keep doing a podcast after that.
Talking Superman says,
Days I haven't slept in.
do you believe including and tweaking with all of the... do you believe...
Do you have them separate with little images of Twitter and Facebook for yourself in your notes?
Maybe.
Do you drag and drop like a picture of the Twitter bird and the Facebook F into every single episode?
Well, now I have a template. Talking Superman says, Do you believe including and tweaking with all continuity hurts or helps his titles?
I mean, we're kind of already touching on this coming off the Batman RIP
I get
thing.
why it pisses people off so much. I also think that like there's two ways you can approach superhero comic books.
Right.
You can either play well within the lines and be like somebody like Brian Bendis, who's just going to write the best, or Jeff Johns. There's a lot of, or, you know, ton of great examples. I think maybe Jeff Loeb might be the best version of this.
Fucking right.
I'm gonna follow every single rule you can.
Yeah, he is.
And just like it's like a haiku poem.
Richard is rock
made
hard
of
right now.
fucking white bread.
Fucking, oh my God. I'm going to put a hole through this fucking
I
wall.
snuck in the insult at the bottom while you were celebrating.
Oh no.
But and that's a noble cause. You know, I think that there's versions of that are a great success. You know, I think like The Long Halloween is a great success.
God
like that.
damn it is.
I think that like Bendis's early like 2000s run on Daredevil is a version of that that's really successful. You know, people do good versions.
I think
of that.
Johns' Green Lantern.
Yes,
is
100%. Another fantastic version of that.
Yeah.
I think that at the same time, and I think that like the nerd world loves that because they're just like, I can set my watch to it. I can set the American flag next to it, and that's a flag I can salute, friend, because they followed the rules. And
You're
told the
goddamn
story.
right.
Well, it was.
Like, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. I think that what bugs me is that people who want to do the flip side, and those people lose their goddamn minds.
Yeah.
Because I think playing with continuity is fine, because here's the thing about comic continuity. None of it fucking matters.
Yeah.
Because the only reason any comic continuity matters in one way or the other is like what is convenient for the company at that given moment.
Yep.
It's why I find X-Men is like, to me, one of the most compelling books is you get this hodgepodge of continuity that's desperately trying to hold on, and still, even with 3 people running it for a decade, constantly contradicts and rewrites itself.
What I love about Morrison is he's almost made his own little sub-continuity where it didn't matter what they did with Flashpoint in the New 52. It didn't matter what the actual fallout of Rebirth or anything like that is. Morrison has only ever been writing and referencing things that he himself has like created, you know, like the thing with the Rubik's Cube or the harmonic like resonance of the multiverse, to the point where he does it so much and it's become so iconic that when DC is like, oh fuck, what do we do? They'd be like, we should just go back to Morrison. So now like
and now he's
Dark Knight's
crafting
Metal.
that.
Yeah, well, he did Multiversity, which was only kind of loosely in continuity in the first place. And then when Dark Knight's Metal came out, in the comic book, Hawk Girl literally takes Morrison's map of the multiverse and puts it on a table. So it's like, okay, I guess this is the fucking thing, man.
And if you think about it, in some ways, he literally set that up in Animal Man in a weird way. And we have just been in the Animal Man continuity for 30 years.
But he's so resolute. Every time he does it, he'll like weave like another little piece of like, remember when I wrote this? To the point where like DC's like default continuity reset is like, what was the last thing Morrison did?
And I think that's kind of awesome because it takes a little bit of credibility to be like, no, I'm not going to change what my book does just because like your guys' sales are low.
I mean, there's that element of like artistic integrity, but I think it also ties into the thing we were talking about earlier, where Morrison is more about like fine, like maybe the exact details of this thing don't line up anymore because for a while Final Crisis was out of continuity. But he was like, I don't give a shit. I still think the multiverse works this way. It feels right. And I think the readers will understand that. And he goes for it.
To that. And that's the thing I kind of admire that DC's really good about is like not binding people down and beating them into submission and letting things linger like that.
Yeah.
And I think that you can trace that lineage even before like Animal Man to Grant Morrison Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Because that book in one issue, his first issue, which I still maintain might be the best single issue of a comic ever written. Like, there's a couple other things that for sure are in that world of competition. Right. There's even off the top of my head, I've got a couple that I'm like, well, but what about this? Or what about this? But I genuinely think it might be the most sophisticatedly well-written thing for what it does, which is tell a compelling story and also change everything out about a book while also changing nothing. Right. It's have you read that?
No, I haven't.
It's go get the volume 1 of Grant Morrison's saga or Alan Moore's saga Swamp Thing and prepare to strap in and just go like, holy fuck.
Swamp Thing is a thing I've been wanting to get into anyways.
It's so good. But like
You're talking about the big Alan Moore reveal about like who
where
Swamp
it's
Thing
like
is.
you're not who you thought you were. Like everything is different now. Please continue being the same comic.
Yeah.
Like now that everything about the rules of this book changed, and I think that you look at stuff, and it's funny because like those two guys hate each other so much, and they literally have been doing the same shit. You know, with the exception, Grant Morrison just continues to be more and more like parallel worlds are a thing, whereas like Alan Moore was like, well, what if Wendy and Peter fucked?
Yeah,
like. like that's Alan Moore's plan. It's just like
Are you talking about your Peter
about Lost
Pan?
Girls?
Oh my god.
Yeah, remember that book?
Oh shit, I forgot that.
Remember trying to realize you got a book that you can't read anywhere?
Oh god, yeah.
When you're just like, oh, this is cool. Like, what a cool concept. Then you're like,
Oh, no.
I'm holding 90 pounds of pornography in my
Oh
hand.
no. Wouldn't be the first time.
I once worked a gig where one of my regulars at a show I was at worked for a porn company and gave me like $400 of pornography in a cardboard box one night.
You weren't upset.
I mean, I still have it all. Like, you'd think you'd give some of it away.
It's bagged and boarded.
You ever have a giant box of pornography in your closet you forget about, and then you clean your closet and go, holy shit, this is still here.
No, but I'll like date myself a little bit here. I was in the like when I was discovering
when
porn,
John Holmes killed all your friends.
I was discovering porn in an era where I would literally like go to Google, type in.
I love that you're
whatever
like how old I am. I was still searching for porn on the internet.
Well, but
Google.
I would type it. It would still dial up, and then I would print a still image off,
Look,
and then
we've all
stick it in
been
my
there.
desk at school.
Yeah,
and I'd be
yeah,
like, "Hey, bud, you see this?
Check
and
this
it was
out.
just like a fake, like someone's
it's Tifa.
celebrity's
It's
face on
Tifa's
someone else's
tits.
body. Yeah, it's just like
I was going Final Fantasy VII instead of a celebrity.
Oh yeah, we've all seen that photo. Fuck, I love
all that cloud porn.
Yeah. Look, Barrett and Cloud are fucking.
It's not just that sword that's huge.
It's also his dick. It's also got a point.
Yeah.
It's a gum blade.
Oh god.
So what was the question?
Well,
his playing with continuity.
I think we seem to agree that
Yeah.
it's fine. Like
Yeah.
I think that's the stronger part,
Especially
of his
with
books.
like something like Batman, where like Batman's continuity is kind of never gonna fully be a thing.
No.
Because if you start getting mad at him for this the crazy shit he's doing, like, are you mad at Frank Miller because no part of year one really matches up with any of the stories that go later? Are you mad with any of the Russia Ghoul, like kind of cool detective stuff? Like, fucking the Red Hood exists now in the way it does.
You can't be mad if it's good.
Even like
and whatever like that continuity error is, if it's good enough, becomes the thing that's right, and everything that contradicted it becomes the error.
And it's gonna change.
I like the idea that Morrison just throws something out there, and he kind of lets history decide whether or not the thing that he threw out there becomes canon or not. He's not saying this is canon. He's just saying this is my story, and then sometimes it fits and sometimes it doesn't, and that's it.
And let's all take a good look at Barbara Gordon's empty wheelchair and realize that if you don't like something, it probably is going to evolve at some point. So maybe it's not worth getting super upset.
Yeah.
It's fine. It never happened anyways.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's a way better way for stories to be than for somebody to like deconstruct them for a little while.
Whoa. Oh, right. So next
I'm going to
question.
get an infinite amount of hate mail from this episode.
Oh, just wait to the end so you can get his information. Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars and
YT.
Beyond. Oh, no. So on Twitter, Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars and Beyond.
Long name.
Fucking long ass name. Says, not being sarcastic, I love Morrison. Can you please explain Final Crisis? ? I really
Can
don't
we just
get-
lump this in with? I know there's another final.
Hold on,
Crisis
but they
question.
specifically say I really just don't get it, especially the final issue.
So I will say this about this. Can we at some point, I'm going to go tomorrow on the plane.
Okay.
And I'm going to buy Final Crisis on Comixology.
Okay.
I'm going to start reading it.
Okay.
Can we do like a Skype follow-up at some point?
I think we should.
Because
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
I would hate to address this stuff as uninformed as I am, and I want to give some of these like a legitimate answer.
Right?
And so I feel like I need to do my due diligence, because that's, again, a fun thing about Morrison is that like there are 9 versions of what you could, like, it never even, until I started seeing the tweets come in, I'd forgotten Final Crisis exists.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I forgot that whole subset of his career that was going on.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we also ask the other Final Crisis question? Because I think we can probably just
Ruminate.
Sure.
Is that
do
a little
big-
wider?
Yeah.
Sure, we'll do a broad one.
I just want to ruminate on the end of a book I didn't yet read.
So the other question comes from email. Well, I'm not going to do it until we get to that part. But Donnie Cavett, who says, So who wants to explain what exactly happened in Final Crisis? Why were the new gods in human bodies? What was the Legion doing? Why were the Monitor vampires? Just generally what happened.
I mean, the Monitors are always a little bit vampire-y anyways, aren't they?
Only the way Morrison does them. And now that's kind of become a thing.
And I guess literally my thought process, the only reference point I have is Rock of Ages and like his Justice League run.
Yeah,
so it's very colored by something.
So I'm gonna try my best, but this is full disclosure. I've read Final Crisis like 7 times now, twice leading up to this episode, and I still don't feel like I 100% on the detail front get it. But I do feel like I kind of get the idea of it. Mm-hmm. I say that I'm about to back myself into a corner, I'm sure.
It's okay. We'll do another episode.
But basically, there's kind of 2 levels to Final Crisis. On one level, there's a war in the Fourth World, Kirby's Fourth World. So it's the New Gods, New Genesis and Apocalypse.
Not like Kirby's Dream World. That's fine.
By the way, the new Mr. Miracle book that's been going.
So good.
Maybe the best current book on the market.
So goddamn good.
So there's a war with the New Gods, and evil wins. But in winning, Darkseid is mortally wounded, and basically they keep referring to it as his fall, but he basically, like, in a metaphysical way, falls through the multiverse and starts dragging reality down with him. Now, what happens to these new gods is their sort of spirits start incarnating in human bodies that they wear through super quickly because they can't handle their celestial power.
Much like angels in Supernatural.
Sure. And then...
Sorry, it's a thing. I bring up Supernatural.
He does, yeah. A lot.
I really like it.
So...
You guys need to do an episode.
We start meeting these new gods in human form, and they basically they're trying to incarnate Darkseid and bring about what they call like the final crisis of man, and that is releasing the anti-life equation.
I've been frowning at him this whole time. If you're wondering why there's a laugh.
Yeah, Richard doesn't just love like how funny the anti-life equation is. Although if I said it out loud, he probably would. So basically, they're going to release the anti-life equation, which will strip everyone on Earth of their free will. And spoiler alert, they do. Some people are like resist it, but basically, that Darkseid arc is this whole thing about them fighting the anti-life equation. The world is being taken over. There's a small resistance. The Justice League's getting taken down one by one, and they have to fight these new gods. And that's basically one level of Final Crisis.
It's interesting hearing it described because, like, for as kind of crazy as it is it that much crazier than anything that was in old Legion of Superheroes books?
It's not.
Like, it's kind of...
But I'm also glossing over a lot of weird
It's the same
things.
level of confusing as, like, the Great Darkness Saga was.
Oh, fuck me. Yeah, yeah. I'm glossing over a lot, but you're right. The other level to this that feels almost separate but is technically tied together, is in the Monitor sphere, which, according to Morrison's own map of the multiverse, is beyond the sphere of the gods where New Genesis and Apocalypse would exist. In the Monitor sphere, the Monitors believe that they have been infected by the orrery of worlds, that they used to be these like timeless, faceless, storyless people, and now they've been infected by the stories of the orrery or of the multiverse. And what you learn over the course of this, the Monitors are feeding on the bleed, which is the space between universes. They're feeding on the bleed. It's destroying the orrery. They're basically bringing about they're playing a part in the destruction and the collapse of the multiverse itself. So the Question, Renee Montoya, boards this ship called the Ultima Thule, which can travel.
I love that at some point we all decided the Question is awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a funny thing to watch where it went from like kind of a goofy thing to like, never mind, Jeffrey Combs did the voice of it in a cartoon and now we're very on board.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Because Jeffrey Combs can sell us on anything.
But basically the Question goes from multiversal Earth to Earth and recruits the Supermen of each of these Earths. So that includes Captain Alan Adam from Earth 4. It includes Captain Marvel from Earth 5, which is the old like Fawcett universe. Yeah. It includes President Superman from Earth 23, Nazi Superman from Earth 10. All of them are brought together to basically try and save the multiverse on this like monitor level, and then the monitors realize that like they're the problem, and it's the final crisis is theirs, and the monitors disappear into nothing except for one, Nixuotan, who was the only monitor who wasn't hurting the multiverse, and they had exiled at the beginning of the book, and he sometimes takes a mortal form, and like is anyone confused yet?
Yeah.
How do those two things connect? It doesn't. It's fine. But basically, Final Crisis, I would say, operates on those two levels. There are connections between them, but like, to be perfectly honest, in a narrative sense, in a detail sense, that's super fuzzy. Like what connects those two almost separate seeming stories.
Okay. Yeah, we will definitely be doing another episode on this because Daddy's got to do his homework.
Yeah.
And
I'm not,
and also my brain's like, this sounds like the most awesome homework.
I'm not even touching on the tie-ins. Like in Final Crisis Revelation, Vandal Savage goes on this crusade with the Spear of Destiny. He takes control of the Spectre.
Of course, yeah. Why not?
There's a Legion of Three Worlds thing that you only get a glimpse of in that one main Final Crisis issue or whatever, where Superman gets the Miracle Machine specs from Brainiac 5.
Do you think somebody at the Warner Brothers animation division goes like, someday someone's going to let me make a 19-hour version of this?
I mean, it would have to be, though. Like, there's no, like, 2-part, 3-hour Final Crisis.
Yeah.
It would have to be.
TV show.
But no one would watch that.
No,
it's not supernatural.
Oh, God,
it's not
yeah.
two kids impressing their dad by doing ghost shit.
Fucking yeah.
But I also...
Keep going.
This is...
There's no end to my love for Supernatural.
Really?
Their initial pitch for that show was, I remember on the CW, was hot guys, hot show. And I watched, and it was.
You're talking to somebody who watched at least 3 or 4 seasons of True Blood. I'm just like, really? Supernatural?
I watched 2.
You're like, Supernatural, that's gay.
Yes.
No, but True Blood, no
No, but
way.
True Blood's everything.
That's true.
True Blood's that like groovy guy with a bunch of tongue piercings who's just like, do you want to do this ecstasy or not?
That's true. And I'm like, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. No one's going to judge you here.
I'm okay with that.
We're just going to put on the feint, turn off the lights, and see what happens.
Oh my God, hands everywhere.
Oh, it's 2006 again.
Fuck.
Oh my God.
Do you feel like you've answered that question?
Well, I was just going to say...
I think I did.
I was going to say, I mean, that's the vague overview, but there are a couple
That's
of...
the vague overview.
Yes, it can vouch. It is.
But there are a couple of specific moments that I think are iconic that happened during Final Crisis. A couple of them, right in the beginning of Final Crisis, they kill Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
He's killed by Libra, who is starting to take over the secret society of supervillains. And it's super sad.
Can I point out this is a problem I have with like that I love and hate about DC?
Yeah.
Is that they have hidden some of the most like interesting like metaphysical ruminations on like reality and heroism and love and hate with the dumbest fucking names for everything. Everyone's name is terrible.
Yep.
Like and like it I think it like hurts like some of the like.
Do you mean Martian Man? You don't like the name Martian Manhunter?
I also mean the Secret Society of Supervillains.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's from the same world where you get Matter Eater Lad. Like there's just things that,
Animal, Mineral, Vegetable Man, if we want to drop Doom Patrol in there.
There's so many things in this like version of it that's like, this is why, you know, it's I think sometimes hard for like the incredibly brilliant writing and like conceptual work in comics to like play for a regular person.
Yeah.
Is because then even if you can get past the costumes, because at a certain point production value is neat and it's fantasy. It's the same shit Dune does.
Yeah.
But Dune instead of like calls them gives them crazy, you're on Arrakis.
Yeah.
You're not Earth 17.
Sure, yeah.
Or like, it's somebody with like a cool name instead of the Secret Society of Supervillains,
Right.
which sounds like something that a 9-year-old in 1950 came up with, and then they just kept it forever.
Yeah.
David Lynch
That's
makes
true.
Final Crisis. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
I will say that another like cool drop in Final Crisis is do you remember in the Superman animated series they made this character called Dan Turpin, who was basically Jack Kirby, but he was like a detective, and then in the Superman animated series Darkseid kills him and Superman goes nuts. Well, Dan Turpin plays a pretty big role in Final Crisis because he's selected by these incarnating new gods to be the host for Darkseid. So Dan Turpin shows up there and becomes the host for Darkseid. That's pretty interesting. Batman uses a gun to kill Darkseid in Final Crisis. He says, like, I made a solemn vow against guns, but I'm making an exception. Darkseid starts to talk to him, and Batman just yells, like, do I make myself clear? And then shoots him, and then gets Omega beamed, and you think he's dead, but he's really back in time. But yeah, so I mean, like, there's interesting, cool moments in there. But they're buried in a bunch of weird crap.
Amen. So Mr. Dave Rossi, our old friend,
Hello.
That's weird.
That sounded like Mr. Fischoeder from Bob's Burgers.
Greeting you the way we all greet each other.
Hello, Belchers.
I got Bob's Burgers on the brain.
That's okay. It's understandable. Dave Rossi says, Miracle Machines, comic book gold, or lead balloon?
So let's directly address, how do you feel about Deus Ex Machina?
Yeah, this is literally the same thing as that other question, where it's like, is it ideal storytelling? No, but at the same time, like, what the question I always have with this, because there's always behind a question like that a little like Monday morning quarterbacking. Right. There's a little bit of a like, well, here's what I would have done. I'm like, cool, but you didn't, because you didn't write the book. This person did, and you can hate the ending, or you can think that it's lazy, but also,
but they wrote it.
I'm gonna lift my hands like this, and I'm gonna go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like, sometimes it becomes an iconic thing. Sometimes the Nazis open up the case and ghosts kill everybody, and Indiana Jones doesn't do a goddamn fucking thing
in that
and
entire
everybody's
movie.
Super fine with it.
Yeah.
And then other times, a thing that like bothers you because it's like a whistle is annoying.
Yeah,
and it's like we can't pick and choose. Like, you can say, oh, it bothered you, but like, I don't think it's a good or a bad thing. I think it just exists for what it is.
But do you like, as a reader, in terms of things that maybe you like or respond to, or things that you don't, do you think is there like a method to Deus Ex Machina that like some people get and some people aren't good at it? Or
yes, I can definitely go with that. I'm trying to think of like a good example of I mean, like, I think Indiana Jones is a great example. Like, and I don't love that ending, but I think it kind of works.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, a version of that I like that's a little different is like, I love the end of Adaptation, where literally everything that solves the problems in it is the stuff that the screenplay writer told them to not do.
Right.
And those are all the things that just happen.
Right.
You know, at the same time, like,
I feel like
I'm trying to think of an example that isn't a trash.
I mean,
thing.
I feel like in the Raiders example, it works because it's kind of, the Deus Ex Machina is also like the thesis of the movie, which is this belongs in a museum. Like, don't use it, don't touch it, don't do anything with it.
Except for, I feel like every time they say that, like, do they assume that in a museum they just like hide it, or do like 19 scientists open it and also die?
Well,
and then people come in and go, what happened to them? And then they die, and it just destroys the world.
But as we know, when Indy says museum, he means warehouse.
No, but he didn't want it in that warehouse. The government took it and said top men, which was their way of saying, fuck you, Dr. Jones.
That's true.
Like, he wanted it in a museum so he could kill every British scientist or American scientist studying it in a museum.
Yeah, fair enough. But
I don't know if you know, Kyle's got a lot of opinions about Indiana Jones.
I kind of feel though that
it's not Back to the Future.
That's like the
Indiana Jones. I'm slightly less of a curmudgeon about.
That's like the George Lucas, like, not necessarily being a great writer thing, but like,
what are you talking about?
But I think the premise of that movie is
Han and Chewie coming in to help Luke is a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, but the premise of Indiana Jones is that Indy doesn't want people using these things. He just wants people to like talk about them. And so the person that uses the thing gets fucking like face melted, right? Like, so that Deus Ex Machina is like in the thesis of the movie, basically.
Does it hurt to stretch that hard, Doctor?
Well, I'm trying. I just really like.
Here's the thing: why do you have to
Raiders.
not like it just because it's got kind of a lazy piece of writing?
Because it would bother me.
Like the number thing,
totally.
like it's like
you don't have to sell me on this because I fucking love League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That's a shitty movie.
Here's my version of that. This is the second Canadian I've met who has quietly defended League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Like, what the fuck is you people's problem?
We're the only ones that saw it.
I guess it's bad on you.
Yeah.
But
Mr. Hyde. Oh, he's pretty strong.
Oh man, LXG made me forget what I was gonna say. About I mean, if you feel like those kinds of things bother you, I would recommend becoming a huge fan of the Friday the 13th film franchise.
Oh, fuck me,
because I'm a massive fan. It's like maybe my favorite horror franchise that doesn't involve George Romero.
Sure,
and those movies are nothing but plot contradictions and the disregarding, like literally 4 movies in, or like 3 movies in, it stops being it just keeps changing.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a hockey mask until part 3, and that's not because like of some plan or because it was a thing and it finally reached this iconic moment. He killed the prankster kid and took his mask and it looked dope, so they did that for another 7 movies.
Yeah.
Like there at a certain point, and I'm somebody who takes art pretty seriously, but like there is a level of like, just have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And with those kinds of things, like sure, that's a thing that one could look at and go, what a dumb, lazy thing. But I can also show you 90 other things within DC Comics that we, in a world where Flash and Anti-Flash is a thing we have to pretend isn't stupid.
Reverse Flash.
And I fucking love Reverse Flash. Yeah. I think what Mark Waid did with him made him one of the most badass characters in comics. It's still pretty dumb. It's the reverse colors of his costume, so he's bad.
You haven't been reading. There's a new character called Negative Flash, which is different entirely.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
What color is he?
She.
Oh.
Like a black and purple suit with black lightning.
Okay.
But not Black Lightning.
Yes.
That's
Which
a
is a different guy.
Yeah. And he mostly shoots blue lightning.
Yeah. Whose logo is not like just a single lightning bolt.
No, it's 2.
Because that's the Flash's logo is
Yeah.
a single one.
Well, so is Shazam's.
Yeah.
Only one.
It's so we're getting,
if you're listening to this and you're trying to poke holes in comics, we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
It's true.
like and again, I take comics seriously, but at the same time I think that there's a difference between like good storytelling
Yes.
and continuity. And continuity is a hill not worth dying.
Yeah, I always will pick story over continuity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like this upsets me because like I was thinking about this recently. Like if we're talking like books that have really impressive continuity, like then you have to put The Walking Dead really high.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to do that.
No, I don't.
And with that,
What's the next question?
the Dr. DC podcast will be back after this quick break.
All right.
Hey, residents. I'll keep this one short because this episode is a long one, but this episode of the Dr. DC podcast is brought to you thanks to our sponsor, Great Lakes Grooming Co. You know how much we love this product. We talk about it every episode, but it's a product that I use every single day. Their beard oil, the Your Love scent, is a staple in my sort of daily routine. It nourishes my beard, makes it really nice and soft and smells really nice. And when I have a little bit left over in my hand, I put it in my hair and it makes my hair really nice. And it's actually one of the only things that like will like tame my hair because it's pretty crazy. The beard balm is a really nice way to kind of finish it off, and it sort of pulls the whole beard together. So if you guys if you have a beard, it's honestly these 2 products are like no other product that I've ever used, and they work super, super well. The Noble Selves hairstyling cream is unparalleled to all of the other gels and waxes and pomades and things like that. It's got this sort of medium light hold for somebody like me who has really thick hair. I'm always hesitant when somebody says it's a medium hold or a light hold because I'm always like, well, you're gonna need like basically cement to put my hair down. But this actually works really, really well without having so much product in my hair. It's really, really nice, and it's super soft without feeling like you have like this gunk inside your hair. It's awesome. Great Lakes Grooming is meant to be easy and ready to use, rain or shine. And we've definitely tested it up here in the harsh climate of the Great White North. We can definitely go through a gambit of different weather throughout the year, and I've never had an issue with this product when it comes to that. But we're lucky because these products are also purposely designed and environmentally responsible, handmade in Canada. I know the people who make these products. It's the same people that we work with for these sponsorships, and they're really, really great people to give your money to be honest. And I know that they're very intently making sure that these products are safe and environmentally responsible. So trust me, you'll feel good about using it, and you'll feel good when you wear it because you'll look real great. But for you lucky listeners, we have a 10% off Great Lakes Grooming regular price products. All you got to do is go to the greatlakesgrooming.com and use their promo code DRDC podcast. That's all one word, DRDC podcast, greatlakesgrooming.com. And just use that promo code and you guys will get 10% off of something that's awesome. And you will definitely come back over and over again. It's not in our promo list that I was given, but they have these really great brushes that they sell too. And they're unreal. There's a lot of process that goes into having a big beard. The bigger it gets, the more work it takes. And being able to have one company that you can go to and you can trust them and everything works the way that it should. It's awesome. I can't say enough how much I love this whole product line, to be honest. So yeah, remember that website again, www.greatlakesgrooming.com. And now back to the show. And we're back.
Hey.
Yeah. Now
We've all made sounds, so you know we're all here.
Yes, that's right. Now we're going to
I took my headphones off and didn't know we were starting.
Oh, you're going to like this.
Oh, what do we got?
going to check at the email.
Finish it. Don't bail at the end.
It's from a female.
Email. Email.
Going to eat and the mail.
It's got kind of a Billy Ocean feel to it.
I'm okay with that.
Email is no place for a mighty warrior.
Is this all part of the show?
Yeah.
Burninating.
Don't just sing the
Across
things
the
that make you
nation.
comfortable because other people wrote them. I want your compositions.
Oh, no.
Oh, you picked up your guitar and went, email.
Eat and the mail going to the email.
Still, do you listen to Giant Bomb?
Of course I do.
Or do you listen to Giant Beast?
No.
Okay. See, here's the problem. I'll follow Dan Riker wherever he goes. and the problem is now, I started off going, I guess maybe I'll listen to some Beastcast. Now I think I like it more than Bomb.
Really? I've started moving away from Bomb a little bit and towards Easy Allies.
Beast is where it's at.
Really?
It's real silly. They get really,
Is this how
weird.
other people feel when I talk about DC?
Yeah,
I have
100%.
no idea what's
It's
happening.
several 3-hour podcasts about video games that come out weekly.
Yep.
But Dan Riker.
Are we about to join the 3-hour rank?
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
It's in my writer. It's like, just
Right.
don't make any fucking plans. And I'm the one who has plans. And I'm still here going strap in.
That's right. I got a lot of things to say about a lot of things.
But
It's kind of good you didn't read Final Crisis.
I know.
Dan Riker does a version of their email song, and it's just to Billy Squires' The Stroke, and it's just email. Maybe it's an E or maybe it's a
Oh
mail
my
now.
God.
And I find myself humming that to myself mindlessly a lot.
Oh my God.
That's really funny.
It's still not as good as what they do on Doughboys every time they have a new segment where he starts doing the songs for whatever. It's awesome. He plays the music and makes lyrics to it. It's awesome. All right. So the first question comes from Nayla, who said...
That was your other podcast you could be listening to report.
That's right.
But you're already 2 hours and 15 minutes
but you're already
deep in this
invested
one, so-
in the,
You're
the
in this.
inaugural episode of the Podcuck Network.
Well, it's kind of cucking other podcasts at this point. So
I guess
Because they're in the corner watching.
that's right.
Yes.
we play other podcasts and then silence them, so it's like they're here.
Oh, it's so hot. Nayla says, what's your favorite Morrison story? Single issue, event, whatever. Thanks.
That's a solid single issue. It's probably it's probably the back either 1 or 2 issues from The Painting That Ate Paris from the Doom Patrol. My brain in a jar and a gorilla explode.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple. Maybe the first 2 arcs of E is for Extinction and what is it, Imperial from New X-Men,
Right.
are pretty fucking good.
Right.
And I know there's another one that's.
I mean, those are Marvel.
Yeah.
It's a Dr. DC podcast.
But I was a young man. And
Sponsors aren't going to love that because they're paying for that DC shit.
Oh, yeah. That's what they're paying for.
So I can see that all the Star Wars memorabilia in this room.
Shut up.
So anyways, let me think of I'm trying to think of a DC one. I'm being dumb. It's first of all, wait, Doom Patrol was a DC one.
Yeah, I know.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, but then you said X-Men.
Yeah, so I had 1 and 1. You greedy doctor.
It's in the fucking
You're like an
name.
American doctor
It's in
now.
Yeah, but by the way, I'm charging you for the
no.
the time you're using on mic.
But I'm in Canada.
Oh, so you'll be
Everything's
taxed
free
as well.
and made of lollipops that are cold.
They're called popsicles.
Oh, yes. What a wondrous language you have here. The 7 Soldiers of Victory.
Okay.
That is a book.
As a whole.
You mean that the fact that whole book is a magic trick?
It is.
It is some fucking David Blaine, did I just blow your mind? This whole thing
It's a bunch
happened.
of like separate books with 3 issues that somehow are one big story.
So for everybody who has, it's that format. It's I believe 7, 1 for each run.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember if there's bookends or not to it. It's a long fuck off read.
Yeah.
But it's basically, what if there was such a thing as a superhero team where the team members never met? What if an entire superhero universe-threatening story could happen where all 7 members of a superhero team have no idea that they are a part of a team or involved in the same plot line?
Yeah.
And that alone should make you go read it. But the fact that he sticks the shit out of that landing...
It's a crazy good book.
I literally was like, in the last couple pages, like, this crazy son of a bitch is going to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like... I had to not read,
it was like Evel Knievel's Canyon Jump.
I had to not read other superhero books for a while after that because I was like, oh, everything else just seems kind of pedestrian now. I've seen all, like, I don't care how many times like there's something clever happens or a twist happens. It's not this madness.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what if I had picking an all-time favorite Morrison thing is difficult for me, but I think one of them is probably out of the
we haven't even talked about the Invisibles on this episode. We are fucking this episode up.
That's true. I think one of them has to be from the Multiversity. I really like Pax Americana. Now, some people will instantly say he's just ripping off Alan Moore. But he's not ripping off.
Alan Moore is saying that.
Well, yeah. Except he's saying that and then
he's
praising
ripping off Alan Moore.
And he's praising whatever the serpent god that he believes in is Glycon.
Let's not start making fun of beliefs if we're dealing with Grant Morrison and Alan Moore.
Well, that's fair.
Let's remember that we're dealing with 2 very powerful wizards.
Yeah, that's okay. Good point. I'm sorry.
I choose to pray to both.
But he's actually he's homaging Moore's work on Watchmen, which was itself
a reference
derivative to the Charlton Comics characters, which were Earth 4. So now the Earth 4 kind of loop has been closed, and the whole just
the curse has been lifted.
Yeah, exactly. The whole panel construction, the way that story is told.
Real quick, dumb sidebar. I imagine when like a curse around the Watchmen is lifted, it just means all the before Watchmen comics disappear.
Oh fuck me!
Like the end of like Super Mario's, the slime goes away and everyone's fine again. We don't have to think about any of the before Watchmen books.
That's right. Oh god.
Snark, snark, snark. Please continue.
That was good.
Thank
that
you.
was a suitable level of snark for the way you're wearing your scarf.
And I got to reference the end of the Super Mario Brothers movie as if everyone has seen it.
Yeah. Who hasn't?
People who didn't watch TV in the middle of a Saturday.
I'm willing to
90s.
bet. I'm willing to bet Dennis Hopper never saw it.
Well,
even though he's in it. I think Pax Americana does a really great job of homaging Watchmen while also like really sticking to what Ditko was doing in like the original like Charlton characters. Like it's a weird balance to strike between what those characters were originally, what Moore made them through Watchmen, and then like bringing those two things like together in a way that still feels like original. Like he's not ripping either off. I think it's pretty impressive storytelling, and the way that he's structured it to be Watchmen-esque, but it's its own thing. There's something really crazy about Pax Americana.
This is what I think is the neatest thing doing this episode with you, Doctor, is our visions as 2 big Grant Morrison fans are so different.
Really?
Like, because I sat down to this and never even would have thought of the stuff you're covering. And
like the new stuff?
Yeah, like the new things and like stuff like that. And it's funny to me that like we have ostensibly largely because of like the way the questions went have done an hour on like your version of Grant Morrison, and literally in my head I'm thinking of like 30 things that we still have not talked about.
Oh, I know, there's so much.
Because
there's
the fact that we haven't touched on the Invisibles, we haven't touched on Chaos Magic, we haven't touched on We 3 and Sea Guy and some of the like the smaller scale stuff like that. The fact we haven't talked about Joe the Barbarian.
And with the questions coming up, we still won't.
Well, it's the scope of the show too, right? By the nature that we're talking about DC stuff, a lot of those things don't make it, but like We 3 is an incredible. I love that
like
one.
and it's because it's crazy because like literally if you ask me like what's the most significant thing Grant Morrison's ever done, I'm gonna say the Invisibles as maybe even my like top 3 spots.
Sure.
Wow.
And it's funny to me that like there's whole subsets of like Grant Morrison fans who like that doesn't even come on their register, and that boggles my mind.
Yeah. I'd say a close second. It's another DC one because obviously that's my kind of niche.
Well, but I mean that's Vertigo, so I mean it's not even like it's another.
No,
it's not like an Image book or something.
True.
Like
it's
theoretically within some version of that.
That's fair. But I was I'm gonna forget the number, but there's an issue in his Animal Man run where they go to Arkham Asylum because the Psycho Pirate, who is the only character that remembers like all of the world's pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths, is like through the Medusa mask is manifesting these lost continuities into reality, and Animal Man literally like leaves his comic panel and starts fighting like Ultraman and them from outside the panels of the comic.
Like literally,
that's a crazy one. I love that one too.
The Animal Man is one of those books that like if you've never read it, you owe it to yourself to read, because I would put that on my list of like 25 essential stories in comics. You know, it's lower. I mean, it's still like, for the love of God, like read The Watchmen, read Preacher, like read whatever bullshit DC things were thrown on there with superheroes. Like, I would say the same thing about Marvel. Don't worry about it. But like, you know, again, because I roll with the weird stuff for the most part. Here, wait. Read, fuck, that's still a Marvel one. Like, give me a minute, because I was gonna say like read Frank Miller's Daredevil, because it's, you know, one of the better things in the world that exist.
Right.
But like
Dark Knight Returns.
There you go. Yes. Read any.
To
of
throw
Frank,
another Miller thing.
Besides, read Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's Daredevil first. It's fine.
I'm sorry. Did you say something?
No, I
I'm sorry.
apologize.
I could have heard something incorrect in my ear.
Oh my!
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this the fucking Marvel podcast?
For a minute, yeah, until we correct our boy over here. Are you for a second saying that
Yellow's better?
That Yellow is better than Frank Miller's entire run of Daredevil?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale can do no wrong. They're the best.
I think I have to leave.
No.
I think I'm going to have to come back with comedian Ed Greer, and we're going to have to like pull a move where we just take you to a bar and beat you until you like learn your lesson about being wrong. And I get it. You're a young man. You're scrappy. You're trying to make a name for yourself.
The same age as you.
But like, what fucking world is Daredevil fucking Yellow better than fucking his run on that book? And I'm not even bringing in like
it's just the artwork
A Man
and the
Without
writing.
Fear. I'm just talking that first run, because I was like if we were going to do this about like Frank Miller and I have to pick a single issue, it's the one where Daredevil's playing Russian roulette with fucking Bullseye when he's laying in the bed, and the only reason that he doesn't fucking blow his own brains out is because he sees that kid who he failed, and so he has to keep working on this stuff.
Richard,
he's never going to be
fucked
complete.
up.
I know.
You fucked up big.
I think you met Mr. Marvel.
I think this is the end of the Podcuck Network.
Oh no!
It's not even, because like at a certain point, like it's one of those things where like because there's whole chunks of Daredevil I don't even care about.
Yeah.
But like that chunk is about as good as, you know, comics of that period are getting.
Yeah, for those comics,
and a fun, like kind of soft, like contentless but pleasant storyline is in no way. And again,
That's what they do.
I'm not shitting on Jeff Loeb. I think Spider-Man Blue,
Fuck, goddamn, that's so good.
yeah, way better than Daredevil Yellow.
Yeah. Daredevil Yellow's still better than that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, man.
And in DC, I think it's really good.
Quiet, you. The adults are talking.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, no.
Put on these Mickey Mouse ears and shut up.
I mean, that's Disney. They own Marvel.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, thank you. All right.
But legitimately, Animal Man, back to Animal Man, is such a crazy book. And I feel like so much has been done in that style, ripping that off since then, that it's sort of like The Watchmen, you know, feels less novel in some ways in a world where Kick-Ass
Because
exists. You know, even though
it inspired a lot.
yeah, and at the same time, like there's no way, shape, or form most things. I mean, The Watchmen is like one of the best things ever made.
Yeah.
And Animal Man is not one of the best things ever made, but it is an incredible piece of like a watershed moment.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's very compelling. It's fucking dark for the time period it's coming from.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's crazy that like because books were kind of pushing that. I mean, Swamp Thing's going that direction a little bit. Sandman's going, I believe, at that point. So there's stuff pushing the envelope, but like some of the stuff that happens in Animal Man is like a real bummer.
Yeah.
And you really aren't like
And that's what Jeff Lemire picked up on too. And Jeff Lemire's run is a complete downer.
And I'll say this, like, I don't think that like it's a landmark book in the same way, because like where Animal Man sits in time is a certain thing, but at the same time, like Jeff Lemire's version of Animal Man is a better, more consistent story.
Yes.
Like it's got more going on with it.
Yeah,
but it doesn't get to exist without the Animal Man that comes before it.
Exactly.
Here, I'll give it, since you're a DC guy, and Lord knows if I'll ever come back after this fucking opens his mouth.
Sorry for dropping some wisdom.
Right in your supernatural fan fiction.
Oh God, it's so hot.
Alas, podcast, we hardly knew you.
Like one of my favorite things in DC, if I ever come back, this is another one I'd love to do, is Keith Giffen's Justice League International run.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, friend.
That's an incredible run.
I read it about once a year and have the same shitty dad thought every time, where I literally go, comics don't get much better than this. Like,
right? And you look around and no one's near you.
And it's an entire book that there's no fighting.
No.
It's just adults arguing and being petty. And
Martian Manhunter addicted to chocos.
Yeah, it's just him eating. It's just Ally McBeal with capes, and I love it so much.
It has like a weird sort of honorable place in the history of the Justice League, but it doesn't.
DC people, if you're wondering why you hate me so much, it's because like my version of DC is like Grant Morrison and
the
Keith Giffen, and Ambush Bug, and just like all the things that people are like, really that we're doing that. It's why like Young Animal's been so cool to me, is because they're just pulling all the weird thing like
Cape Carson's
you mean just like weird fourth world stuff and Doom Patrol and other things that people are like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why would you make that a book?
Yeah. I know you hate events, but did you read Milk Wars?
Not yet. I've been real torn.
You should.
It's an event and I don't want to.
I think you'd like it.
I know I will. Like I look at it and just like, this will bring me joy. Why am I avoiding it?
Yeah.
Next question.
Let's do it.
Comes from Greg.
Hey.
Just Greg.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, Greg.
The bunny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you mad at that?
Because it's fun to me. Greg says, why did
We're never going to work as an improv troupe.
Yes, and Greg says, why did the Amazon scene...
I've thrown my headphones off twice now.
One of these days I'll get through an intro. Greg says, why did the Amazon seem like a future society in Morrison's Wonder Woman Earth 1 GN? It's nothing like the movie version where they all use bows and arrows and swords.
Have you read Wonder Woman Earth 1?
I have not yet.
So the idea of the Earth 1 world is that...
Can't wait for Green Lantern Earth 1. Oh, it's going to be so good. Is it out? Yeah. Fuck me.
This is the same thing like where the Batman Earth 1 came from, right?
Yeah.
So it's that world of stuff?
But they're not necessarily all connected. It's just like... alternate origin stories, basically.
We decided to get that the word Elseworlds is not allowed anymore, so now we're just doing different books, but not having the convenient title that they for sure are.
Earth 1 is
Otherworld.
Did you guys like Batman Earth 1? I wanted to like it more than I did.
I liked it.
Again, it was okay. It was real short.
Yeah.
If it were twice the length, I feel like they try to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah. I prefer Wonder Woman Earth 1.
I am curious about it. To cover this question in an odd way, I am excited to read it because I like that comics can still provide you the a entry point that points out to you that like the movies for these things are in no goddamn way in my world the now definitive version of these characters.
No, it's fucking insane.
Show me
Marvel does that now and it fucking drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's why I've abandoned Marvel as a company. Is like, oh, cool. Like you've bailed on all of the hard work your actual comic book creators have done for 50 years so that everybody can look like Robert Downey Jr. A thing you came up with from when it was the goddamn Ultimates. Like, you're a snake eating your own tail and you make me angry.
Yep.
So, like, I love what they did with the Wonder Woman movie. I thought it was interesting, but I love that there's a book that's like, you know what? Let's dick around and try a different version of it and a different aesthetic that we haven't tried.
Well, to touch on that, so in Wonder Woman Earth 1, the Amazons are like technologically advanced, and Morrison himself in interviews has discussed like when you look at those Golden Age, those original like William Moulton Marston books.
Boy.
Wonder Woman had, it wasn't called the Invisible Jet, it was called a robot plane, and they had the purple ray, like the healing technology that they had, and that's stuff that Morrison, like the purple ray comes up in Final Crisis, like that shit is in there, and Morrison wanted to his premise is basically like the idea that
what
the Amazons
nerd he is, that he's just digging all these deep cut things out of these books and going like, now you have to deal with the fact that this exists.
But his own internal logic too is interesting, which is that like, yeah, the Amazons have been cut off from us for thousands of years, but they're not progressing.
Well, how could it,
like, so
in a world where
instead of-
everybody fucking loves the Black Panther movie, like why Wonder Woman and the Amazons, who are literally the exact same story, like can't have the same technology?
Well, so that's his thing, is that like they're not going to not progress. It's not that time moves differently for them, so they'll have technological advancements.
But
because they live in a fucking utopia, they're way beyond anything that we've got.
which is what Black Panther just did in a movie.
Precisely. So Wonder Woman Earth 1, like the genesis of the invisible jet and the purple ray and all of those things, it's just Amazonian society being more advanced than ours, which, yeah, like you said, is totally different from the movie. But the movie does bear a closer resemblance to like the prime continuity of the comics. And that's not new. They didn't change the comics to make it more like the movie. But for a long time now, the prime continuity of Wonder Woman has been that kind of like, we're still ancient Greeks, as opposed to something way more advanced. Even though they still had things like the purple ray and that, it was always based maybe a little bit more in mysticism than in technological advancement. So Morrison's Earth 1 Wonder Woman is interesting because it actually moves... I mean, it kind of blends those worlds because she's still descended from the Olympians and things like that, but it moves away from magic in a way that Wonder Woman typically does not, which is kind of fascinating.
I think it also plays for me it piques my interest because like I've never been a fantasy guy,
right?
Because the idea of like existing in these like past worlds of things, like I mean, I guess there's like small examples. Like I'm a big Robert E. Howard fan because I feel like he does it in interesting ways. But because I feel like Robert E. Howard never fetishizes the past.
Yeah,
like Conan feels like it's this fantasy world, but that could also be like just our far flung future.
Sure. Yeah.
Like it's
after Mad Max. When the gas runs out, then we end up in Conan.
Exactly. Like they're the bones of people and cars underneath Conan.
Yeah.
And now there's
fucking
the
rad. I
worms
never
and
even
all
thought
these
about
things
that.
like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And that's what I like those kinds of things I like.
That's fucking dope.
But the like fetishization of like Greece and like, you know, medieval Europe as like a thing that's exciting is just like not a universe that like is super exciting or interesting to me.
Well, that's the number one thing. If you're going to pick something apart to bring it back to Tolkien, about Tolkien's world, is by the time you get to the events of Lord of the Rings, that world and elves and things like that have existed for almost 10,000 years.
Yeah.
And the technology literally never changes.
And
it's
that
always
bugs
swords.
the shit
It's
out of
always
me.
bows. They never advance. There's no advancement ever in anything.
And to me, like, it would be cooler if, like, somewhere in the Silmarillions, like, and then eventually there were, like, 50s cars, and then shit went awry, and now we're back to swords or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is almost...
Have you played Horizon yet?
And then
that's kind of what that
God
and
does.
then
damn, it's so
Morgoth
good.
destroyed the diner.
And really, that's kind of where Walking Dead's going, which I
Really?
never would have expected.
I've been so off of it for so long.
They're really making a crazy jump in the book now with the new arc. But for a while, that's kind of what it went to. Is like people are in hockey pads, but there's blacksmiths and they're making swords. They've got guns,
so rad.
but it's a lot of like and even in Max Brooks' version of World War Z, like the Lobo getting invented, and them all talking about like how good it feels to just be like on a battlefield fucking up zombies with this big hunk of metal in your hand.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think that melding of those different types of things, I think it's why Fallout's kind of cool, or any of those kinds of
Well, then
things.
I would definitely recommend that you read.
Oh yeah, this
This
sounds
Morrison.
we were
from
friends for a
Jamie
reason.
James.
It's totally in your
Like-
wheelhouse then.
Or yeah, I mean, if you look at the three of us in this room and you realize it's just a Mr. Potato Head of like one guy. Now he's got long hair. Now he doesn't have hair. Now he's got a beard. Now he's got glasses. Now he doesn't have glasses.
Oh, fuck, I love that.
You cut me to my core, sir. You have cut me to my core.
Nobody has ever looked at those guys and thought, God, I don't know if they have opinions about sci-fi writers. But I also want to know.
This is definitely the first episode where we've like thrown shade at Harlan Ellison.
Yeah,
so.
it's a room full of people where they're like, oh, you mean those three guys are familiar with the works of Neutral Milk Hotel?
Oh,
like,
God, yeah. God
like,
damn, yeah.
We are bad stereotypes of a thing. You
Yeah.
could do a very, very, very depressing version of The Big Bang Theory with the three of us.
Oh, no.
Our whole universe is on Prozac. And they keep saying that they're gonna finally put that band together.
We seriously are, though.
But their wife tells them to put the guitar away.
Oh.
Mike's in the closet behind me. All right. You want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that I've thrown us all into an existential final crisis.
Exactly. Oh, my God. Time to head to Reddit where everything's positive, no one's ever mean.
All right.
At Dillhole Fuckface says, why haven't you all killed yourself for having a podcast?
Holy
Because-
shit.
Well, we've recorded this on a Monday, and you're listening to it on a Wednesday, so there's still time.
No, this is some 13 Reasons Why shit. We're already dead.
Holy shit.
Too dark?
It's a great show.
It's a little dark.
You love TV.
I watch so much TV.
Oh, why don't you fucking marry it? Read the question.
He has a cool
Can I?
wife instead.
It's true.
His wife is cool.
Super cool. Have you seen all our art on the walls?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody thinks this is my man cave. Nope. It's just my wife's
Everybody
naked
goes
photos.
like, man, Richard likes some cool tasteful art. He's like, no, Jay Gonzo's Superman is mine.
Yeah, that's mine. Yeah, the one that's not on the wall. Or like,
It's on an
yeah,
amp Gonzo, though. Don't panic. It's not being it's not thrown in the corner.
Oh, no. He's not listening. Don't worry.
He for sure might be.
That's true. You're on this.
Yeah.
Mutant.
He's talking to the other guy who's like me.
We're going to get our entire lifetime worth of listeners on this episode just because of all the people cosplaying with him.
Fucking right. That's I've been waiting for that
Guys,
sweet
just-
This Is Rad
I mean,
push.
like, I know by Canadian standards I am successful, but I need you to understand I am not very successful.
You don't know how unsuccessful we are.
I don't know. I feel like, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah.
So, Mugen Hunt says, I really want to know the exact membership of the 7 unknown men and which DC creators are among their number.
I don't know what this is.
7 Unknown Men, I feel like they actually come up during 7 Soldiers, but the 7 Unknown Men all kind of they're the ones that all look like Morrison, and I think they're meant to be analogs to like actual comic book writers.
Yes.
I don't think he actually
also
ascribes
feels like-
specific ones to
He
all of them,
doesn't,
but
and
it's
it-
him and Julius Schwartz, I think, are at least
Are
two of them.
And I also think it's kind of a riff on the 9 Old Men from Disney.
Yes.
Like it's kind of that like pop culture things are made by these like shadowy groups of creative types.
Yes.
And Morrison's never found an idea that he didn't think I should shove this into a DC Comics book. They say yes to everything I do.
I mean, that idea of like creation, like we said, that's something that comes back over and over and over again. So in Final Crisis, it takes the form of like what is a story. In 7 Soldiers, it takes the form of these like this like shadowy like behind the scenes like who's actually running the show kind of thing. In the Multiversity, it takes the form of the gentry and how audiences report on and review and editorialize the creations of other people. But all of these Morrison things, I think, like tie together. I think there's an internal consistency to them. But the 7 Unknown Men don't have specific identities. But I believe that he and Julius Schwartz are meant to be two of them. Julius Schwartz, an editor at DC Comics at the time.
And I'd be curious whether he's like counting past and present. Like, is like Karen Berger going to be somebody who's like in there as like one of the shadowy people who's existed within the world and stuff like that?
Or more Weisinger or something like that. Yeah. I'd be interested to if he's ever, like in an interview said like, well, this is who I was thinking of, or if that's something that he keeps
absolutely
secret.
not. I feel like and I bet he has 5 of them figured out, and then he was like, I'll leave 2 just in case.
Well, he fucking did that with the Multiversity. He left 7 Earths where he's like, it's a mystery. Like, just
That's how you stay employed, friend.
Yeah. I mean, take notes from Morrison on that. But yeah, I mean, beyond that, I don't know that there's actually too much to say about the 7 Unknown Men. I mean, you're the one that brought up 7 Soldiers. Do you have anything like else that you wanted to throw in on that?
No, it just it's been a hot minute since I read that book. It's a few years ago, but that was one of those ones that like, again, my friend Brandon had turned me on to, and he was like, this is one of those weird moments where you look at it again, just think like, comic books can literally do anything.
Yeah.
And it was again one of those ones where I was just like, God damn it. Like there's so many like fun books out there, but sometimes you just go like, oh, that's right. Like this is what this can do. It's I would put 7 Soldiers just on a technical level, kind of in that same category as like something like, like Jimmy Corgan or something like that.
Right.
Or even less than Jimmy Corgan, like building stories.
Yeah.
Or like, where they're doing these weird angles where you're just like, also this is a comic.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you get complacent? Now here's a box full of shit you have to dig through. Like, and 7 Soldiers the same way. Or like, oh, it's almost like this.
You have to pay attention through that.
And
series.
it also feels like his commentary on event books.
Yeah,
because it's
he
one
makes you
series,
jump, and he makes you jump around. It's like, oh, it's Mr. Miracle #1, and then it's like Zatanna 1, and then 7 Soldiers 0, and then it's like,
which feels like this kind of parody of like you going through one of those books.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, and that's probably 100% what he was after.
Because if you look at when it was published, it was right at kind of the tail end of those things starting to flame out a little bit.
That's true.
And he's like, oh, you know what I should do is I'm the court jester of comics. Let me do a weird cryptic dig at them.
That's true. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that until you brought it up, but yeah, that's got to be
that was what I kind of took away from it when I read it. Was just like, oh, this is like his like,
yeah.
That's awesome. Go to the last question.
It's getting dark even by Canada standards.
I know. So this comes from FN-2814.
Finn?
Yeah. I know. And Finn says, why is his run on Action Comics praised as magnificent? I can't stand that issue.
I get why one would not like it. Mm-hmm. Like, he makes a lot of strong choices. He's wearing jeans.
Well, and he makes Superman kind of unlikable.
Yeah.
It's a younger version of Super. So this is the New 52. Like at the very beginning of the New 52, Grant Morrison was writing on Action Comics, and we were sort of seeing like basically Superman Begins. But they kind of make him mean, not like evil, not good. But he's
dick.
But he's gruff. Like when he goes after someone, instead of saying like you're doing the wrong thing and I'm Superman, he goes like, I could drop you off this building if you don't stop what you're doing. Like he wouldn't do it, but he's like that's not really like a Superman move. That's
right?
Like that's a little dark. So I think people didn't respond well to that, and that's part of it. I mean, I kind of get that.
I think that it being presented as part of this launch of this new series, it's everybody
it's
was
a bad
already
first impression.
Very in a decision full of, and I mean with the way New 52 turned out, a thing where people were not loving the directions, and then to make a book that was that kind of uncomfortable and different, was really easy to leave a bad taste in people's mouths.
It's not necessarily like all bad artistic choices, but I think like he didn't read the room maybe. Or read the terrain. But like I said, one of my favorite like Morrison stories of recent times comes in that run. It's Action Comics #9. That's the one where he goes to Earth 23, and we get to see like President Superman, a character that he had set up and explored a bit in Final Crisis. And like that to me is fascinating. And then the stuff from Action Comics #9 with Super Doomsday from Earth 45 and all of these things then feeds back when he comes back to Multiversity. That stuff happened. Like it's that to me is maybe like part of that Action Comics run doesn't feel like Morrison. It feels maybe too conventional.
Yes.
And then that one issue is like, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
And then he kind of goes away a bit. And then he comes back in Multiverse and you're like, fucking right, finally.
It's
like that. I think
and I think that's symbolic of all of DC at that moment.
Yeah.
It was the moment where DC was like, do we try to become Marvel?
Yeah.
Do we try to go the direction of what they're doing? And I think that for it being as kind of sucky as it was, it also pushed DC to go like, oh no, this is not what we do. We're a totally different kind of company.
There are things that make us special. We should go back to it. Yeah.
And it made them double down on that stuff. And I think that it's done nothing but make DC a better company.
Oh, Rebirth is an unequivocal success.
Yes.
Everything that's happened since
awesome.
Rebirth is
and
incredible.
52 will be a interesting collection of books that 100% will be turned into some weird meta book Grant Morrison does 10 years from now.
Of course.
Like all of those books and like Lemire's Animal Man and Swamp Thing and all those things will get sucked into this weird meta book called like 53.
Yeah. Well, wait, do you know about the 53rd Earth? Because they just revealed it in a Morrison written...
Are you also going to make me throw my headphones off?
Okay, I know you hate event books, but Morrison teamed up with Scott Snyder for a single issue in this Dark Knight's Metal run.
Oh, this thing.
And they've revealed that the 53rd Earth is all apes.
Yes.
And they're coming to save the multiverse from the Dark Batman of the Dark Multiverse.
So awesome.
Right?
Well, that was fucking awesome. We barely scratched the surface of Morrison.
We're going to have to do more parts of this.
Without a doubt, we definitely will.
Absolutely.
Another podcast that Kyle has to come back to do multiple parts of because he's got so much to say.
It's this. You guys have a fun podcast here. This is
thank
awesome.
you. Thank you very much.
I'll have to
Thank
start
you.
listening.
Oh, yeah.
But then you're going to get the weird thing because like I only listen
That's the best endorsement we could get.
I only have a handful of friends whose podcasts I listen to.
Of course.
And what's fun about it though is the same thing that I get from several of them is like you're just going to get these out of context like texts, responses from me from something mid-episode in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like, so you mean like what I do to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and it's the same thing I do to Keith Carey and the same thing like Rivers and I will do to each other, like where it'll pop up. Rivers is actually pretty healthy about it. Like where
That's true,
like,
he is.
I send him more than he sends me. But like me and Keith will have just passive aggressive conversations through our own podcast to each other.
That's fucking hilarious.
And so but yeah, so this is awesome. This is super fun. Literally I feel bad because I know we all have to stop because we all have to keep living our lives, but I could just do this for 3 more hours.
Trust me, we would. If
and we will find 3 more hours at some point.
Yes,
to
100%.
do it. But thank you for
you for
joining
having
us,
me. This
for
has been
talking about
amazing.
Moorrrissoonn, for geeking out, for exposing the things I hate in myself, that I'm just a straw man, replaceable potato head.
I just mean aesthetically. I mean, inside, we're all different and special.
No, that's what I meant.
You're a snowflake.
On the outside, we are just one action figure repainted like old wrestling toys.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to plug anything?
Yeah,
Tell
you've got
people-
so much
tell
stuff to
people where
plug.
I
find
mean,
you.
my Twitter at This Is Rad, at Kyle Clark is Rad, is my personal Twitter. I only use it to talk to people about stuff I do on podcasts. That's literally the only reason I haven't gotten rid of it.
That's true.
And so if you have thoughts on this, I will for sure respond. It might take a minute because I usually get it when I'm on breaks at work.
Or you're recording other podcasts.
Yeah, those were text messages. Thanks for blowing up my spot, you fucking narc. Anyways, at Kyle Clark is Rad. On Twitter and I guess Instagram. I never checked that.
I was gonna say, like, you use
But it's
Instagram.
there. If you want to see a picture of me operating a deli sandwich and going, I'm a sandwich from 5 years ago. I feel like I peaked
I
that
do.
day. And then my podcast is This Is Rad.
One of them.
It is. I mean, it's the one that's like where
that's
the heart
big
is.
one,
yeah. Yes,
the other ones are all things where I just come in and be a silly man.
That's
sometimes.
true. Okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm on the Tuesday episodes of the Pro U podcast with Tom J. Dieters, but that's if you want to hear me talk about how I'm sad and trying to lose weight. So,
Hey, welcome to the club.
and then beyond that, we got my album, I'm a Person.
So good.
And I'm very proud of that. And that's on the Spotify's and the Apple Music
And maybe one day a
and
website.
Amazon. There's a link to it on the website.
That's true.
as
it's
good as
an
we're getting.
unfinished website.
Oh, you mean my website?
Yeah, the one that I made.
Meh. We'll get there.
Sorry, are you promoting a shitty job you did?
No, I did a great
You
job.
did a great job. I got busy.
Oh, okay.
2 years ago.
Yeah. One day I'll stop being busy. Maybe then I'll start watching Supernatural.
Oh, you
How
fucking
many,
should.
How many episodes are there? How
Oh,
many?
9 seasons. That's all you need to know.
How many episodes per season?
It's 22, I think.
Oh man, so 22 hours times
13.
9.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So
It's okay. We'll go through it together.
sure.
We'll make
Sure
a
we will.
podcast, then you'll have to.
Yeah. Well, if you ever come to LA, we'll do a Supernatural episode. Although I want to say
wrong.
somebody else is trying to do that too.
Oh, I guarantee somebody else is.
Very confident about people's love of Supernatural. All I know is Jeffrey Dean Morgan is in it, and I think one of the guys from John dies at the end.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So,
And
God
Jensen
damn it, so-
Ackles. That handsome Jensen
Fuck, he's
Ackles.
so good looking.
and that nobody needs it anymore now because Riverdale exists.
Fuck Riverdale. It's nowhere near as
Sorry,
good.
friend.
Oh,
Oh man.
So much shade is thrown in this fucking issue. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Are
This
you
is-
doing any things?
I never promote dates.
No, it's
because I
true.
don't know when this is coming out, and also I don't know
It's
when
coming
I'm
out, I
performing
think,
next.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay. Here, I'll check my
And you'll be back.
calendar,
You'll be back tomorrow.
sir.
So
And also, isn't most of your like listenership Canadian and could have just seen me?
no.
Actually, no,
Most of them
a
is
lot of them
most
are
of
in
them
the
are
States.
yeah, and fans of your podcast.
Well, they should know that I'm very secretive about where I do shows because
You don't want people to see.
Yeah, so fuck you guys for trying to make this a workaround to find out what Kyle is up to.
let's see where I'm at. Fine, Jesus. I didn't realize this was the Getting on My Dick podcast. I mean,
Hey,
Passover's on Saturday.
anything to get those sweet listening numbers.
That's right.
How
many
I'm
downloads?
recording a This Is Rad on Thursday. Does that count? It's
Oh,
not a
sure.
live
Yeah. If
show.
you guys want to go to that,
Just if you want to go and watch a bunch of people sweat in a room talk about Star Trek.
Nice.
I actually feel like a lot of people would watch that.
Son of a bitch, why am I not on that?
oh my god, that's a great one.
Oh, okay. April 4th, I'm at Time Warp Records in Venice at 8:30.
Boom. There we
Watch
go.
Me do 10 minutes of comedy.
We actually have a large California listenership.
Okay. But
So
yeah.
there you go.
But yeah, This Is Rad, my album. I'm a Person. Hit me up on Twitter and check out. I was just on the Dr. DC podcast, and it's really long.
Yeah, it super was.
So if you picked up this episode in the last 5 minutes of 3 hours,
Maybe you got in your
Go
friend's
backwards.
car,
Go back.
and we're like that sexy man's voice and those two other guys' voices who sound similar.
yeah,
It,
those 3 interchangeable personalities.
not personalities, just looks.
You've really gotten to me.
Yeah,
though.
I know that. I love that. That's what made you uncomfortable. That's your dark side is moment. And with that, I'm out of here.
Oh my God. So those are some great questions. If you want to send questions like that,
I'm out of here.
you can go. If you want to send questions like that to us, you can go to our various social media accounts, such as Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast,
or Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast,
or our Twitter,
at Dr. DC,
or our website,
drdcpodcast.com or .ca.
What if they go to iTunes? What can they do there?
Rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star review, give us a what Colin does. You guys have been great about doing that, so keep it
You
up.
said a
Just
boot.
a hard boot there. Not even
You did. You went a
pretending.
boot so hard.
Like you just like rubbed.
Even I
maple
was like,
syrup
oh
on
my
it.
God, that was Canadian.
That was like offensive. How Canadian
What?
that was.
It was like a stereotype.
I didn't do it on purpose.
I know you didn't. That's what's upsetting.
I'm going to be super cautious about it now.
Oh, we broke you today. I feel bad.
I'm going to go back to my wife, a broken man. But also Google Play, Spotify, Libsyn, and streaming on our website. And if you have questions and you don't want to contact us through social media, we have an email address.
Oh, yeah.
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we sometimes we'll just answer those and not put it on the podcast.
Yeah.
So there we go. Some kind of sign off, I guess. I don't know.
Adios.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I'm out of here.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.